tried to hold us back, to hold us, tried to hold us back.
We will be here forever. Do you understand?
This week I catch up with Australian skateboarder from Sydney, and it doesn't get much more Sydney than Chadford, everybody. The Devil's Chadvocate, as some of his mates like to call him back in the 90s when he was a club promoter. That was interesting. He may or may not have got me wasted on Jugs of Illusion at Kinsella's once or twice when I was very young. I was legal though. And that's just a very small part of his story. Chad, his involvement in Australian skateboarding has been really profound. He found himself in a really unique position of becoming like a conduit for skateboarders and skate culture, and then the bureaucracy of governments and councils. And he really was responsible for nudging councils into allocating funds and budget for skate parks. And then from that, he, taught himself how to design these things and get them out of the ground. He was responsible for so many skate parks, not just in Australia, but other parts of the world. But I guess to highlight a couple, he got Curl Park happening, the first street Curl Park area, Fernside at Waterloo, Bondi Bowl, and numerous others. Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, the guy's actually done so much. But I think throughout the conversation, I think what really stood out for me with Chad was that he genuinely, and still at his age, which is in mid-50s roughly, loves skateboarding. And everything always came back to, like, what can I do for skateboarding? What can I do for skateboarders? He talks about Bowlarama. He was one of the original founders. He was a major shareholder, and he talks about the rise and the fall of Bowlarama and his part in that. So it's a good story. I mean, when I say Chad's from Sydney, he's from Sydney, like as literal, like as much as you could be. Like, he grew up in Millers Point, which is right next to the Harbour Bridge. It's fully gentrified, that area now, but back in the day it was a housing commission area, and he grew up in that with his mum in a single parent family. So hope you enjoy it. It's a long episode. Big shout out to Aha, who let us use his beautiful basement area. Done a couple of podcasts there now, so thanks Aha, love you buddy. Enjoy the Chad Ford story, everyone.
Child of the light, styles of the neon belong to a culture destined to rock for eons. Time doesn't exist, shut those cataracts, capture the virtualist. Now, let's get back to what makes things seem forever, whether it's unseen, unheard, or it's 16 again. Not a bother, fill this old man river, kill a floor, gives all. Coming up
shit out of everyone. You want to be telling the stories of the fun times and all of that. So, the documentation's incredibly important, but at the same time, don't get bogged down in that.
Do you think it can, like, attach you to the past and then you sort of get stuck in that period?
I mean, think about how many skaters are like that. Well, back in the day, man, like, I remember. And it's like, well, cool, but you still, like, I got into the dance music scene just when it was kind of like, it had been going a little bit in the 80s, and then it really blew up, and I got involved in it more and started promoting. And so I'm promoting these events, and by that stage I'm out 7 nights a week because I'm running club nights, I'm throwing warehouse parties, so I have to be out every night promoting, but I'm still skating every day. And I'd run into skaters at a rave, and they'd be like, "Oh man, like, yeah, it's so good to see you." And I'm like, "How have you been?" And I'm like, "Good." It's like, "Where have you been skating?" It's like, "Oh, I don't skate anymore, man. Like, I'm raving." I'm like, it's at that stage in my life, it's like, it's pretty much impossible to rave more than I am. Like, I'm out 7 nights a week doing this, but I'm still skating during the day. You don't have to give up one for the other. It kind of. So I was always laughing, like, dude, just hop on your board, man. Like,
just roll.
Yeah, just go right to the corner store at least to get the milk.
Yeah, that's something that's bugging me a lot lately. Is the old man syndrome. Like, there's rarely a time I go to the skate park where at least one person says, "Oh, I'm too old. I can't do it. I'm too old for this shit," or whatever. I'm like, man, while there's like air in your lungs, and you've got use of all your body parts,
Yeah.
you're not too old. Like it's an expectation thing. No, you're not going to skate like you could when you were 20.
Yeah.
Just accept it.
A buddy of mine, I was living up in NorCal in the Bay Area for about 18 months, about 4 years or so ago. And I broke my ankle real bad in a pool. And another friend who was part of that crew, we had this Saturday Newick crew, which was rad. And he like fractured a bone in his knee. And I was talking to him, he goes, I think I'm done, like that's it, I'm done. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I want to be able to walk when I'm older. I love going out for walks with my wife and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but that's got nothing to do with skating. I said, you don't have to drop in the bowl anymore and try and do a run and keep up with any of the crew and do your tricks. Just get a board and ride to the corner store.
Yeah.
Like, it feels just as good now as it did when we were little kids and we first learned to push down the footpath. You just carve down the footpath to the corner store. You'll come back beaming. And he's like, oh, you're an asshole. That's right. And then when he came good, I told him about this board I set up when I fractured my spine a few years ago, and I was going stir crazy. So I set up this cruiser board that I could roll around on, but I knew I wouldn't try and do tricks. So I could just carve and have fun and just keep my sanity. Because my son and I, at that time, were riding 5-dock like 3 or 4 days a week. And my kid was little. He was 5 and he just wanted to be skating all the time. So I just set up this cruiser board so I could just cruise around 5-dock. And I told him about this board I'd set up, and he goes, okay, send me the details of that. I'm building one of those. I was like, yeah. I come across that a lot. There's definitely those guys, I just can't do it anymore. I was like, do what, man? Just skate down the street.
This is just a different chapter in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, skating is completely different to what it was. And it's actually personally more enjoyable because now I'm going into this chapter with like experience and knowledge of how to approach this chapter. And like I am enjoying it like more. And sorry, one last thing I'll say is like I think there's been a real movement towards like older guys looking after their body.
Slappies, the slappy generation.
The slappy generation, but they're actually also like doing healthy things like hydrating and stretching and and it can definitely drag it out. People just don't want to do that.
I do need to do that stuff. I skate with Salba every now and then, and Salba just is the machine. He rides his mountain bike like uphill for 8 to 12 miles, just constantly just riding uphill to build his strength and his stamina, and he's doing all his stretching. You go skating with him, he's just doing the splits, and he's kissing the ground while he's doing the splits, and I couldn't even think of doing any of that. But it's inspirational because when you skate with him, he's taking runs that are easily, sometimes some of his runs are like 5 times longer than anybody else's run. His stamina is insane. His flexibility, the stuff he gets himself into when he's skating in the backyard pools. It's like, how did you do that one? And, like he's just turned 62 and he's just still insane.
Oh, totally. Speaking of insane, your life's been insane, in my opinion. Knowing you for many years and observing from afar, it's a very interesting story. And I do want to hear your story today, like even in like a chronological way. But what I'd like to do first, before we do start getting stuck right into it, is I want to ask you, like, tell us about what you're doing with your life right now and what does your life look like? Like, where do you live and what are you doing for work and things like that?
I'm living in LA, moved to LA nearly 12 years ago. I was still owning and producing skate events, from Bowlarama I rolled into Bowlzilla. I didn't do Bowlzilla last year or this year. There hasn't been the support there. A lot of people are forgetting that we had the whole world shut down 6 years ago. exactly at this time.
Has it been 6 years? Damn, dude.
And the world hasn't recovered from that. And the skateboard industry really got hit hard. And so I know in the last 6 months it's just starting to recover a little bit, but it's going to be, years before any brands are capable of supporting stuff as much as they could. And you still hear some brands like they'll boast like, yeah, man, I'm doing this event and we're doing this event. It's like, hang on a second. You used to do 20 events a year and now you're down to one. So, it's good that you're still doing something and you're rolling it in and you're keeping that going, which is fantastic, but don't pretend that you're not struggling, because it's noticeable 20 events down to one. But it's rad that you're still doing the one, so keep going on that at least. But it's hard. So I was doing that, but throughout my life, I've picked up skills from designing and building skate parks and all that. So I do a little freelance design build stuff in LA, helping friends out. I've got architecture and builder mates, and they'll get me along and
like private jobs or public stuff.
Yeah, private jobs. Like a hand carved a set of stairs for a friend's loft a couple of years ago out of white oak, which was still got RSI from that. Currently helping builder mates who are building a brand new house for someone on the beachfront in Marina Del Rey. And so they've got me in there. I'm just a general dog's body, but at the same time, they put me on like the finicky stuff because if you ask around any of my friends, they'll have plenty of jokes about how OCD I can be with stuff and straight lines and all that. So they put me on
like a perfectionist.
A little, like I want to, if I'm putting the time in, I want to get things, spot on. And so they'll put me on like the little technical fine detail jobs, and that's great for me. I love that. I can get in and just nerd out and get everything just right. And, I go home at the end of the day. It's kind of the first time in my life that I'm on a project and I'm not running it. So I can go home at the end of the day and I don't have to hold things in my head. I just go in, they tell me to do something, I do it, I go home. So that's nice at the moment. And I'm working on my house, I'm restoring my house and skating, trying to skate as often as I can and, try to be there as best as I can for the people in my life that I love, and I don't think I'm incredibly successful at that, but I'm trying. And
you're aware of it.
Yeah.
That's a forward step.
Yeah. So I'm just having fun, I'm really enjoying my life at the moment. I'm not stressed. I'm not dealing, there can be some interesting individuals in the skateboard industry that probably shouldn't have certain jobs that they do. And it can really wear you down when you're interacting with them. So it's nice to have a little bit of a break from that.
Well, can we get a bit more clarity on that? Like I want to go back to one thing you said. You said like it's the first time, I'm not in charge of a job.
Yeah.
So like for a lot of your life, you've kind of been the director, the manager, the event director, things like that. And with that comes responsibility. So that creates noise in your head.
Yeah.
Because you know that this has got to get done and the buck stops at you.
Yeah.
Can you maybe share with me like the toll of years of doing that has taken on you physically, psychologically?
Yeah, for example, when you're doing an event, there's a hard out. It's got to be on this day at this time. It's an immovable end line. You have to do it. So you've just got to do whatever it takes to get to there to make it happen. And if you're the boss or the arsehole at the top, as I generally refer to myself, you're the one that's got to take the hits. You're the one that's just got to go that extra yard. And that can be quite stressful when because there's it's not rocket science, but there's a bunch of different moving parts and certainly a bunch of different egos and stuff you have to deal with, especially if you're doing it in a public space. So you've got to just be across so many things. You're not just a specialist. You've got to be aware of insurance. You've got to write a security detail. You've got to figure out traffic management. You've got to figure out waste management. You've got to,
you got a proof of poster design.
Yeah, like all of those things before you can even talk about the skating and the fun stuff of, rewarding your mates for doing a good job on the day. So that can get pretty stressful, and and I've always kind of done multiple things at the one time. So I was doing skate park design and construction while doing the events, while doing all the other stuff, and so it piles on. And I remember I was in my early 40s, and I'd flown to Spain to meet with the city to try and get Bowlarama Get Show happening, and I had this really bad knot in just under my shoulder blade, and I just thought, oh, it'll go away, but it really messed with me the whole week I was there. I couldn't skate properly, and I couldn't move properly, and I got back and I thought, oh, it'll go away. Anyway, it didn't. It got worse, and I went to the doctor and got tested, and they said, oh, we think this might be polymyalgia rheumatica, which is a weird thing because normally it's seen in women in their 50s. And I'm like early 40s. So they're like, oh, this is kind of weird that it's showing up this young and in a guy. And, my mum had just been diagnosed with it. I was like, well, this is strange. Mum just got diagnosed with it 6 months ago. And now so they started treating me for that. And they got me on steroids, which were horrendous and caused a whole bunch of side effect problems. But after a year, they said it might not be that. It might be ankylosing spondylitis. We're going to give you a cortisone injection in the base of your spine. If it's polymyalgia rheumatica, that injection is going to last for 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years, you'll be fine. But if the injection doesn't take and, within a couple of weeks or so, you're in pain, it's ankylosing spondylitis. So 2 weeks in, injections worn off and they're like, oh, it's ankylosing spondylitis. Okay, well, that's weird too, because normally that's fully settled in by your late 20s and you're in your early 40s. Like, it's amazing that it's showing up now. And I was like, oh, well, it doesn't surprise me. I'm a weirdo anyway, stuff happens when it's not supposed to. And so they got me on, I was just taking naproxen and an anti-inflammatory every day, which had me like, by that stage, my body was operating like 65%. And I, on a good day, I was maybe operating 75%. My son was skating. I just wanted to be skating with my son. Like every day he wanted to skate. I was just like, let's go. It was so much fun. I wasn't pushing him. I wasn't training him. He just wanted to have fun and skate. So we're just out like doing our thing. And we just moved to America. And I was trying to deal with it. And then finally they got me onto the program for Humira, which is like this biological. And I have it's an injection. So you're supposed to give yourself an injection every 2 weeks. And when I started on that, all of a sudden I got better. Not 100%, but better. And I could...
What were you noticing, in terms of day-to-day function?
I
tired or...
I couldn't walk properly.
Interesting.
I can't...
Like the muscles wouldn't work?
Yeah, like everything just constricts in weird ways and you get deferred pain in different areas and...
Were you losing like muscle mass, like dystrophy?
I wasn't losing muscle mass because I was still trying to stay active. I was so frustrated. I just wanted to fight through it as best I could, But I can't. Every now and then I can go for a skate and just push around, but I can't do it every day anymore because that motion, where ankylosing spondylitis sits, is in the base of your spine in the sacroiliac joint. And that's an immobile joint. It's bone on bone, the very base of your spine. But with ankylosing spondylitis, the bones swell, which then allows space between them. They start moving.
Oh.
So the motion of pushing all of a sudden makes that joint move. And so I get in a lot of pain, and so I can't do that. We just moved to LA. My kid was so into skating. He still is, still ripping. But he wanted to skate to school and home from school every day. And I wanted to do that with him. You know, what a rad thing to share with your little kid. But I just couldn't do it. So I had to ride the bike beside him. And that hurt. That really annoyed me. And so when they got me on the medication, all of a sudden I was, you know, you're supposed to put it in the fat. You can't put it into the muscle. You put it in the fat. So they're like injected into your thigh or your belly.
Okay.
And so after a few months on, I'm skating better, and my fat burns off, and I've got no fat to put it into anymore. But the better I skated, the happier I was. The happier I was, the less I needed the medication. You're supposed to take it every 2 weeks. I'm taking it every 4 weeks now.
Yeah,
so,
right.
You know, it changed. It really brought home how important skating is to my mental health. And I think how much better a human I am for everyone around me.
Did they say what the cause was, or was it just a hereditary thing? Like
they don't know. It's an autoimmune muscle condition, and they don't know how you get it and where it comes from. But there's a history of autoimmune conditions on my mum's side.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't know. Someone way smarter than me will figure it out one day and hopefully find a cure. I'm just stoked that I can still skate. You know, I'm skating.
So it's traveling okay now?
Yeah, you know, like there's stuff I can't do. There's tricks I would love to get back, and I just can't kind of get my body into that position. And so if I'm having a bad skate, because I'm mainly skating, you know, the concrete bowls and pools. That's kind of, you know, as we were talking about before, I've reduced a lot of the stuff I used to focus on in skating and just focused on the stuff I get the most reward from, you know.
Nice.
And so if I'm having a session and my body's not working properly, I'll just wind up and do a speed lap and then just lay into a frontside grind as fast and long as I can. And the feeling of that on pool coping, you know, I go home and I'm just beaming for a week.
Dude.
You know, it's like it's like that one grind. Oh my God, it just felt so good. I just, you know, feeling the concrete rumble through your truck and up through your body. And it's just like, that's such a buzz. And whereas before when I was younger, you know, when I was a lot fearless, like, well, what tricks did I do today? And how, like, what line did I do and link this into this into this? And so I just kind of like strip back the rewards. It's like, you know, I just need the smallest thing to make me happy, and that's all good.
But prior to that learning you had, were you striving for most of your life for, I guess, various forms of success? Because to me, it feels like you've had some pretty amazing successes.
I think it was. I was never trying to be successful. I think, you know, the generation that kind of raised me in skating in the early 80s, like all the Blue Ramp locals, Jamie Birtle, Shane Deering, Durwood, Lloyd, all those guys just were, you know, there was nothing happening in skating at that time. And we were such a small crew, and they just kind of like raised you, like, if you do good, good will come to you, you know? So I wanted to, if I had an opportunity to do something, I wanted to do the best I could with that to be beneficial to everybody else around me. And I figure the work speaks for itself. So if you do good enough with that, then you get lifted with that, and you lift everybody else with that.
So that was the motivation.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, what's in this for me?
Oh,
which is human nature for most things, let's face it.
Yeah, I grew up, you know, I was single mom, dad wasn't around. We moved into the city.
How old were you?
Well, I started going to preschool in Millers Point, the Rocks, when I was 4, which is when I started skating. And because skating was massive in the 70s, huge. In that neighborhood, every kid had a skateboard. My best friend skated, was like really known in the neighborhood for being a ripping skater since the time he was 2, you know.
Yeah.
Adam Kowaleski. He, like this drunk came out of the pub, the Australian on Cumberland Street one time and bet him $20. This is in 74, he's 2. $20 that he couldn't ride around this hairpin bend around.
He was how old?
2.
No.
And he just like, you know, and he did it. And the guy tried to walk off, and Adam's dad was a very known, very heavy guy in Sydney that people didn't mess with, and people used to hire him to take care of situations.
Gotcha.
So Adam's dad came out and was like, "You owe my kid money." You know?
$20.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money in the 70s.
I know. So it was.
Like
so I grew up like, you know, my best mate already was known in the neighborhood since he was a little kid.
So how old were you in Millers Point? Did you say
I was 4 when I started preschool, and then we moved there. I think I was 6.
Why'd you move there?
Mum loved the neighborhood. She loved the romance of the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know, but it was all government housing. So at that time, it was a company town. It was all owned by the Maritime Service Board. You know, the wharves ran 24 hours a day. Most of the people were union working on the wharves. There was a few co-ops. There was, you know, a few others, but it was all like city dock, you know, hard labor workers. That was the community. And so I, you know, grew up in that, and Mum when I started primary school, which was on Observatory Hill, which if anyone knows
wild.
Sydney, like it's where the Harbour Bridge starts, and, you know.
It's like as Sydney as it gets,
Yeah,
dude.
you can't get more city, really. And Mum started working for the PNC.
Gotcha.
And because it was just the two of us, I'd have to go to these meetings. So I'd sit there in these meetings, Mum on the PNC, just fighting for our community and our school. So I grew up watching my mum do all this amazing stuff for the community.
Like an advocate, activist.
And she wasn't getting paid for this. She was just doing it to try and lift up the community, you know. And so that had a massive influence on me, massive.
Boom, boom, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, she was, you know, my hero growing up, because I could see what she was doing so that we could survive. And at the same time, doing all this stuff for the community for no reward. She wasn't getting paid, you know.
No.
There's no accolades. She fought really hard for the kids in our community. We had a couple of local council-run playgrounds that used to supervise all the kids after school, and we'd go there and we'd ride our skateboards.
She got those things happening.
She helped out with that, you know. She, like, a lot of that stuff was already happening, but she helped make sure that the programs had funding, or, you know, they were recognised.
Amazing.
You know. So that had a big influence on me. And then I suppose, you know, as I grew up in skating and stuff started to happen in skating, we had to do it ourselves. And so I was just always looking around, okay, well, how can I help? You know, the older guys who'd been there much longer were already doing things, but it's like, well, is there anything I can do to help? You know, I just want to contribute, because it was so important to me, and it just done so much, given me so much of a life that.
So older guys like getting skate parks built of various types, or skate events, like even back in the day.
Skate events, skate parks. I remember going to Dave Mock put on a comp at Curl Park in '83.
On the vert ramp.
Yeah,
was it a vert ramp?
Well, back then it was like there was an 8 foot high, 8 foot wide wood quarter pipe with no platform, about 27 feet of bitumen, which was basically gravel.
No way.
And then a 12 foot wide, 6 foot high, 6 foot tranny fiberglass quarter pipe with wood coping.
So this is before the vert ramp.
Yeah, this is before then.
Interesting.
And I'd been skating my whole life, and I was just all about skating. That was the first time I'd been to an event. And I just remember being there, finally seeing, you know, I got to see Adrian Jones and Biff skate live and Sin skate live. And I'd only seen photos of them on the wall at Skateboard World or in surf magazines at that time. And I was like, oh my God. And I was just like, this is where I need to be, you know. And there were no kids skating or around the community at that stage, my age. Michael Mulhall was the kid, and he's 3.5 years older than me.
I love that story, yeah. I remember Adrian Jones telling me about that.
Yeah. And Mick was the kid, you know, and so like they're all like big upping Mick because he was ripping at that comp. But he was 3.5 years older than me, so I'm just really, really little. And I think I was 11, so I looked about 6 because I just always looked really young and really small.
I've noticed. You do look young for your age. There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep going.
And I was just, you know, this is amazing. And then as skating started getting more popular a few years later, I'd been around, you know, I was part of the scene, and all of a sudden kids my age started coming into the scene and stuff. But I'd already been there for a long time. And so as stuff happened, I was like, well, how can I help? And people knew me, so, oh, well, you can do this or you can do that or what have you. And it just was kind of second nature because I thought, well, that's what you did just from watching my mum's example.
Dad wasn't on the scene?
Nah.
Never?
Oh, Mum kicked him out when I was 2 because he wasn't a good partner. And then he kind of like, I'd get ready for him to pick me up for the weekend and he wouldn't turn up and stuff like that. And then he just kind of faded out. I think I was 7 and that was it. Just didn't hear from him anymore. And I was super close to his mum. His mum used to really support me more, you know, other than my mum. My grandmother on my dad's side just would always go out of her way. What are you doing? What's your interest? That sounds amazing. Explain it to me. What can you do with that? Where are you going with that? Tell me. Make sure you tell me these things. I love this. And she bought me I remember, how old was I? 10 or 11. She goes, are you still skateboarding? I'm like, yeah, I'm still skating. She goes, good. And it was Christmas. And for Christmas, she got me this mobile, and it was a skateboard mobile. I was like, this is amazing. You know, I've still got it. It's broken in pieces.
You hang it above your bed?
Yeah, I hung it above my bed. It's just like these chrome, I think it was 6 chrome skaters that just swivel around. And it's like, I've still got it in pieces.
Have you really?
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, it's so rad. And it was just, you know, she was just like, this is good, you know. And nobody thought skateboarding was good then. Nobody. It was just, what? You're doing what? And she was like, this is, she could see what it was giving me. She's like, this is great, you know, go to.
Because back then it was a very like non-conformist thing to do. It was not really,
you know,
socially accepted.
It had
especially for the older generation then. Right?
Yeah, it had a boom in the 60s, went away, came back in the 70s, was really big. People forget how big it was, but it was big in like different ways here in the 70s. So you had, you know, Shane Horan, who went on to be one of the greatest surfers in the world, was the Australian champion skateboarder. It's in 76.
I didn't know if I realised that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And so that you had like the Pepsi crew and like, you know, blonde head, blue eyed, Aryan race kids, all rippers, but, you know, like there was a look, you know, it was Australia. So you promoted blonde hair, blue eyes in the 70s.
Did you identify with that?
It was just, I just wanted to be on my board. Like there was a feeling of just that feeling of motion, and with all the kids in the neighborhood. And so we'd like doing all this stuff and trying to figure it out. And we'd go skate and we'd butt board through the city, because back then the city used to shut down at midday on a Saturday and not open again till Monday morning. And so we used to just tear off into the city. You know, people who grew up in the neighborhood or whatever, you know, their park at the end of the street or the bushland that they all used to go muck around in. For us, it was the city that was empty. So we'd just be tearing around in the city from the time we were like 7.
And was your approach just to skate through the streets?
Yeah, we would just...
From location to location, not a skater spot?
At that time, you know, this late 70s, and we're all, you know, 7 and 8, we just wanted to be riding our skateboard. So we'd find a hill and have butt board races down these hills and stuff. And it was just about that motion. Some of the older guys would, you know, look out for us, but they were all like mid 70s freestyle. You know, that was the thing though, you know. So Russ Howell style skating, handstands and 360s, and everyone skated barefoot. I've still got a scar on the top of my left foot from a fall I had from back then. And
Doing a what? A 360 or a handstand?
No, we lived. Mum and I, our house was on this hill, and it's a hairpin bend, like a tight hairpin bend. And we're out walking the dog one day, and Mum's like, "You could skate down this hill." I think I was 7, and I was like, "You think?" And I was like, so proud. Mum thinks I could make it down this hill. This is amazing. She goes, yeah, do it now. I'm like, really? And she goes, yeah, do it now. I'll wait around the corner down below for you with the dog. I'm like, okay. And so I go to do it. But she's like, no, not on the road. You've got to do it on the footpath. I'm like, what? I'm looking at like, what? And she's like, you can do that. And look, the footpath's, 3 foot wide, going down this reasonably steep hill, hairpin bend down the bottom that I had to hang on. And we were skating barefoot back then. And I'm like, oh no. And she had confidence in me. So I'm like, oh, Mum thinks I can do this. Okay, I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm bombing down this hill. I get halfway around the bend. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing it. This is amazing. There's a huge crack in the footpath, knocks me off my board. I'm like, oh, I'm laying there, taking the top off my foot, blood everywhere. A few minutes later, Mum walks around with the dog. She goes, I was wondering where you were. What happened? I'm like, oh, I fell off. I'm crying, She goes, oh, quit your whinging. You're okay. You just fell off your board. It's just a scratch. Come on. And she grabbed the dog to walk me back up to clean me off, but she was just like, stop whinging. You're fine, I'm like, and, I had to hop because I'd taken the top off with blood everywhere. She's like, it's just a scratch. Such a 70s Australian parent. It's just a flesh.
Right.
Yeah.
Your mum sounds like a legend.
Yeah. She's rad. She's put up with a lot of skaters over the years. We've had a lot of skaters through our house, and
So you had house traveling skaters.
Yeah. She was always, okay, they can stay, and we're kind of the Canberra embassy in Sydney in the 80s. So many Canberra skaters came through and stayed, and guys from overseas.
Can you rattle off some names?
Oh, Mike D, Joe Stefanich, Blake Convey, Byron Convey.
Too many.
Chris Link, Lester. I'm trying
too many.
So many. Yeah.
Hey, going back to your little skate stuff through the city. Was the Martin Place pit already there when you were doing that?
I'm trying to.
If so, did you skate the pit?
I think it was there, but at that time, that was just beyond. Like at that time, I was just starting to skate ditches in Canberra when I go down, because I had family down there, so I'd go down there for school holidays. I'd be like farmed out down there. So I was just starting to skate ditches, but no one in my neighborhood knew about skating banks or anything because they're all doing all this freestyle stuff. Right. I'll get to the pit story, but we're doing freestyle stuff, and they're all riding fiberglass boards barefoot. And I had the first wide wooden board in the neighborhood, and Skateboard World in Burwood was at the bus stop, and we used to go out to my grandparents' place every week or every 2 weeks. And so the bus stop, once we got off the train, was right at Skateboard World. So I was in Skateboard World since I was 6. I'd just be there like once a week, every 2 weeks, just like always there. Dave Mock worked there, and I was like, oh my God, like just checking everything out. And I wanted Chris Stropel caster board. It was like 7 inches. And I'd saved up my money. I'd put it on labor. I saved up my money. I was like, finally going to get it. I go in there to get it. And Dave Mock's all, no. No one's riding those boards anymore because skating was changing overnight because everyone's riding wide wooden boards now. I'm like, what? He goes, this is what you want. And he sets me up with this like a skateboard wall blank that they painted black and put 3 little Dogtown bullet stickers on it. I got some.
It was a blank. I wonder where the blank was made though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
If you're out there and you know.
I'm pretty sure it was a furniture company near Gladesville that was doing that. A buddy of mine years later, I was skating with and working with at Kinsella's. He was security, Dan Moxari. I think his dad was helping make those back then. Anyway, I get this board. I go home to the neighborhood, and everyone in the neighborhood's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's a skateboard." I'm like, "But how do you ride that?" Because they're just all riding fiberglass boards barefoot, doing having competitions to see who could do the longest tail slide, because the fiberglass would leave a mark and you'd measure. It's like, okay, such and such did the longest. And
It's actually some rad idea. Bring that back.
yeah, we should do that. And so I had this big wide wooden board. It had gold ACS 651s and white Sim snakes on it. And so I just started figuring out how to ride it. Like, they didn't know how to. My friends couldn't tell me what to do. So I was like, okay. I rode off a gutter, and everyone's like, "What?
Like, what just happened?"
I was like, I rode off, and they go, "Do that again. How did you do that?" And the board stayed on your feet. Like, what? What? No, like, you got to watch Chad. He's riding off a gutter. Like, no, that's impossible.
Were you like, I invented this?
Kind of, like 7 going, what? No one knows in the neighborhood. What? How did you? And so then I just I was like, well, I got all proud of myself, like, oh, I'm because my best mate, Adam, as I said, he was ripping skater since he was 2. And I was always kind of like second or third, athletics at school. Always got second or third place. Adam always won everything, and everyone was always better than me. And all of a sudden I had this board, and I was like inventing new ways of using it, that everyone in there was like, what are you doing?
You had nothing to work from.
Nothing to work.
You hadn't seen a magazine.
I wasn't looking at mags, but I'd see, there was photos on the wall. They always had photos on the wall at Skateboard Wall, or, someone would tell me a little thing here or there, but I just, incomprehensible. There were no videos, there were no sequences or anything. So I was just figuring it out, and I rode off the gutter. I was like, I wonder if I could ride off a higher gutter. So I rode off a higher gutter. And I was like, hang on, if I go fast, and I had to go fast enough because a lot of the gutters in my neighborhood, like the splash area is sandstone. So, it goes out 1 or 2 pavers. So I had to go fast enough to clear that, or I'd hook up in the worn sandstone and just go.
Like acid drop style.
Yeah.
No ollie.
No, acid drop. And just go.
The Chadstead drop.
And just go ass over tit if you're hooked up in, So I was going fast enough. I was like, oh, I think I could clear 2 stairs. So then I cleared 2 stairs, and by that stage, they was like, oh, I need a wooden skateboard, and so that started getting wider wooden boards. And so then I was like, by the end of the year or something, or early next year, I was clearing 5 steps.
Dude.
I was like, oh my God. And I was just, and we used to have the butt board competitions, and this board was tuned pretty good, and I'd always get second because I was so small. I just didn't have the weight to propel the board. So all of a sudden I'm winning the comps and stuff, like winning our butt board races. And I'm like, I'm getting pretty good at this, and I'm starting to get some confidence. And it just, just kept evolving, and, well, what else can I do with this? Hang on, I don't have to just do handstands and 360s, and just was so dedicated to it. Like, Adam and I would just take our skateboards to school, ride at school during recess and lunch, ride
What school
home.
did you go to?
Fort Street Primary. This is still Fort Street Primary
in the city.
Yeah, Observatory Hill. But we used to do fun stuff, like when we go into the city, it was closed. We loved skating the Hilton Arcade because it was white marble and it was so fast, and it would be just awesome. And so that's where we moved from butt boarding to standing up and doing that. And we just grab the rail and do power slides. And when we got down the bottom, but we also, because we were city kids, and a lot of the parents in the neighborhood were kind of rougher characters who got away with
funny
certain
to think
things.
of.
Yeah.
It's so gentrified now.
Yeah, it's just insane. And it's so depressing what the last government did to that neighborhood, but that's a thing for another day. So we'd go into the city and we'd just cause ruckus. So we'd go to the Hilton Arcade and we'd skate, we'd do that for half an hour and get our fill, and then bang on the windows. until the security came out, just so we could get chased and like take off skating, you know, power, like pushing as fast as we could to get away from security, and
No way.
just having fun. And
It's like maybe like the OG city crew.
we
Are you going to claim that? Claim it.
For sure we were, because there was no one living in the city. You know, you had like the closest inner city suburbs were Redfern, Darlinghurst, Surrey Hills. You know, we were in the city proper in the Rocks, Millers Point.
Rocks.
And well, what happened, which kind of leads into your pit story, is I was skating in the city every day, and then I started high school, 84. So I'd skate to and from the train station, you know, skate after school, wherever. And Mick Mulhall and I had become friends. And we started going city skating. It wasn't even called street skating then. You know, there was a couple of photos here and there in a mag showing a couple of things, but it was still to be determined. And so we'd call it city skating. We'd go into the city Mick would catch the bus in. We'd skate on a Friday or a Saturday night and just skate around the city and try and figure out how to use our boards on all this stuff. And then sometimes the Coral Park crew would come in at night and come skate. And if anyone from outside the city wanted to meet us to skate, I'd always just say, meet us at Martin Place, because there were so many things around Martin Place. So we'd meet at the pit, and because there were so many things around there to skate. That was a good starting point. And then when the Hurstville down south scene really kicked off in 86.
Aloha.
Just before that was built, they opened a skateboard world at Hurstville.
Gotcha.
And there was a guy, a Fagan character, who opened up an indoor ramp in North Wollongong. And
Fagan? Is that a word?
Watch Oliver Twist.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. I don't know the reference.
You'll get the reference. He was kind of like, Fagan kind of controlled this gang of criminal kids and have them all out pickpocketing and doing stuff. And the guy who had this ramp was like getting kids.
He was that kind of vibe.
Yeah, he was that kind of vibe. You know, the two uniformed cops pull up one day in their car, and we're like, oh my God. And, you know, we were 14 or something. I'm like, oh my God, no, the cops are here. Everyone's like, you know, because everyone's just starting to experiment with smoking weed then. So everyone's like, oh, whoa. Anyway, they come in and they buy a kilo of weed off him and go back and put in the trunk of their cop car in uniform. We're 14 watching all this happen. I was like, oh, wow. Anyway, all those guys, anytime anyone wanted to skate in the city and figure out city skating, they'd call me, because I lived in the city and everyone knew I just skated everywhere and skated in the city and knew the city like nobody else. So people would call me, and all those southern guys were like, can you show us around and how to skate the city? I'm like, sure. You're on the Southern Line, just get off at Martin Place. I'll meet you at the pit. And so I'd always just get everybody, if anyone wanted me to show them around, meet me here, we'll skate here. You know, there's the shish kebab sculpture right there, so we'd muck around on that. There was this wave bank on King Street on the other side of the MLC Centre, like straight through the arcade from the pit. You could still ride the courthouse banks at that time, which were rad, especially if it was raining. If it was at night, I always preferred doing it at night, because at 9 o'clock they'd turn the fountain off at Town Hall, which was this huge waterfall fountain. You could skate that all night. It was like massive wall ride.
Was the Prudential double set there then? Probably wasn't. Probably too early for the.
No,
maybe the three.
It was there, but we
three flat three. You wouldn't even.
We weren't even thinking about that at that.
But it was
stage.
there, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Like we weren't even looking at that. It was like, you know, people would just, okay, so we can ollie off stairs. You know, and it was just when kickflips and street plants were coming into skating, but in street skating, but everyone who was doing a kickflip in street skating, like in the comps, they'd stop, do a kickflip, and then push off. It wasn't done in motion, you know. And so that's why I never really wanted to learn kickflips, because at that stage I was just like, I don't want to stop. And I hated street plants because it was just like, but that's not skating. I want to be, skating's a verb. Like I want to be in motion. I'm not in motion doing this stuff. But, you know, we meet there and people like practicing their kick flips, or they'd like boneless up onto the bottom ledge or boneless off the bottom ledge, or, you know, and then slowly like learning to ollie up onto that ledge and ollie up to grind on the ledge. And this was, you know,
so it was the meeting spot, really.
Yeah. And it was just because if anyone hit me up, I want to skate in the city, can you show me around? Like, yeah, okay, I'll meet you here.
Yeah.
And that became the meeting spot and the starting point.
In hindsight, the shish kebab sculpture, which for those that are unaware, and I know there's people who aren't, who've never seen it, it's a series of pyramids stacked on top of each other, wasn't it?
Yeah. Like,
and effectively, you were skating the bottom flat bank and it was steel, like, no, it was like aluminium.
It was
like
polished
stainless steel, yeah. And then it also had two grates as well on a marble surface. Like in hindsight, it was actually such a sick spot.
It was,
you do lines there.
Yeah, it's really fun. And just, it where it sits now is where, like, right where I started my first job when I was 11.
Well, what was your first job, dude?
I used to sell newspapers in the city. I used to have to stand on this corner.
You're like a paper boy.
Yeah, but not a paper, not like the weekend like route where you go out and deliver the paper to your neighbours. I had to stand on this corner. I had to get there as quickly as possible after school. So I'd bomb down the hill. I'd be there at like 3:15. If I got there at 3:20, Phoebe, the owner of the store, would just rouse on me. Like,
in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then stand on that corner till 5:30, just flinging papers under people's arms, rain or shine.
To the commuters. So when they get on the train, they read it on the train.
Yeah.
Did you wear like one of those Peaky Blinders hats?
No, but I probably should have, because, you know, I just remember days standing there in the rain. Like there's a little kind of alcove section. I'd like just tuck myself in there to hide away from the rain. Just still have to like.
And how much would you get paid? Like so you were giving them, and then people give you cash. Like they give you coins.
I was getting
giving change and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it was like $20 a paper or something. And
$20.
No, sorry, 20 cents. 20 cents, and I'd have to give the change. And I think I was getting $20 a week at that stage, and you know, and we didn't have much money. Didn't have really any spare money. So if I wanted a skateboard or anything, I just had to save up and buy it myself. I had to figure it out. And Skateboard World back then used to have a trade-in. You could trade in your old board and get a discount off your new stuff. Wow. So
that's rad.
So I've got almost every skateboard I've had since I was 13, but before that I didn't, because I used to trade them in. I'd clean them up and go into Skateboard World and trade them and, you know, get $10 off my next board or something. So I was just like saving up. I wanted to buy an Aussie skateboard because Sin rode for Aussie and Mick Mulhall rode for Aussie, and it was like rad. And so I got that job and I was saving up, and I got myself a Eureka. I was just stoked. Yeah, I've got a Eureka. And I was already riding North Ride all the time by that stage. I was 11, and I get out to North Ride with my Eureka, and all the older guys are just like, "What are you doing, kid?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so stoked. I've got an Aussie board. You know, when I get older, I want to ride for Aussie." And like, that board's too big for you. You're insane. I couldn't move it. You know, it was like a 10 by 30 inch board with hardly any nose.
How good's the name though? The model name, Eureka.
Yeah, it was right. It was just blackboard, no concave.
Bring that back, dude.
Eureka flag on the bottom. Tim Dorr, man, you should do one of these with Tim Dorr. What a legend.
I'd love to. His name comes up a lot.
You know, he just did so much for Australian skateboarding, and just the product he developed was of an international standard. You know, like his wheels at that time were some of the best in the world.
Dude.
You know, his trucks were rad. You know, it was so...
sorry to cut you off there, but in terms of early influences, would you say it was like your Tim Dawes, David Mox, AJ's, Biff, Mulhall?
Dave Mock, just for what he did with the comp at Cold Park really inspired me. He was always like talking to me at Skateboard World and stuff. There was a guy, Steve Bennett, that worked at Skateboard World. Blonde guy, used to ride 5-dog back in the day. He really would look out for me, you know. G&S brought out these rollerball wheels, completely round. And
No
I was
shit.
like, they look rad. I want those. He's like, no. And I'm like, but I want. He's like, just shut me down. No. I'm telling you what to do, kid. You're not getting those.
I don't think I've ever seen those.
Why? And he goes, because they flat spot. And he knew that I didn't have any money, and I just, I did whatever I could to just get the next bit of product. He's like, no, they're useless for you. They're flat spot too soon. Don't get those. They're terrible. And then I was looking at trucks again. I was like, maybe I want to try independent trucks. I don't get them. They break. Back then, before the stage 4s, the hangers used to break all the time. They turned rad, but the hangers would break, So he was like, no, you can't get those that break. You can't afford to keep replacing those. He'd give me advice like that. So I was,
That's rad.
Steve Bennett, Dave Mock, Adrian Jones for sure, and Biff for sure. But Sin was like, oh my God, Sin's amazing. He rides for Aussie. He's got full page ads skating Cold Park in the surf mags. And, I still remember that ad of him riding the whiteboard with the concave with the kangaroo on the bottom.
He wasn't riding like a winged skateboard?
The wingboard. We'll get to that. And Mick was the person youngest to me. And so I was like, oh, there's another kid that can do this, Wow. And so that was easier for me to relate to see someone closer to my age and size doing all this stuff. So that were the guys I kind of really looked up to. And then I remember I got a copy of Thrasher 83, and Tony Hawk had a photo doing in India, and Catchman was saying, like, it'll be a long time before anyone beats the local boy in his park. And that just blew me away. And Steve and guys at Skateboard were like, he's someone you should look at. He's someone you should emulate because he's really small and you're really small. So look at his skating. He's a good place for you to look,
There you go.
That was before he shot up and just, became 6'3" or whatever he is.
Before he became the Birdman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then obviously your high school years, we can talk about them. Yeah. I don't know if that was a good time of your life.
Yeah, it was. Well, that was when everything was starting to blow up in skating. I remember starting high school, 84, and just everyone was like skateboarding, and the teachers would just be like, hated skateboarding, didn't think it was cool. And I was at a selective high school. So they wanted the best from their students.
What was it?
Fort Street High.
So right in the city still? Okay.
Oh, no.
Is there a high school in Fort Street?
The Fort Street High School is so the girls' high school used to be on Observatory Hill, and then they combined them in the 70s and moved it out to where the boys' school was, which is out at Petersham near Leichhardt on Parramatta Road. So I was going there, and nobody liked skating, and everyone's like, oh. And all the kids that used to give me shit at high school, all of a sudden Back to the Future came out next year, late 85.
There it is.
And Back to the Future changed everything.
I do.
Like there's pre-Back to the Future and there's post-Back to the Future in skateboarding all around the world. And people don't like to admit it, but Back to the Future completely changed skating.
Dude, this is my first time, second time I'd ever seen a skateboard. But
yeah. So many people came into skating from that movie, and all of a sudden, all the kids at school were giving shit. It's like, where can I get a board?
You're that guy. Yeah. And we just sent him a skateboard.
Yeah. Oh, it's skate because it was.
Were you sponsored at that stage?
No. I was starting to do things because I was the little kid, and if they needed a little kid for something, Skateboard World was where anybody went to try and get skateboard talent for a thing. And I remember, I think the first demo I did was maybe 85. It was Year of the Youth. And so they did this big celebration out in Parramatta Park. I had no business being in this demo, but I was the only kid. Michael Moll stopped skating for a year. So I was the only kid that skated. And so we need a kid in this demo because it's youth. And it was like Dave Mock, Adrian Jones, Biff Murdoch, and me.
But so, how did that opportunity come about?
Through Skateboard World.
I got you.
Yeah.
And then, so they went, okay, you got to get Chad. He's the kid.
Yeah.
Because the other kid, he's having a break from skating.
Yeah. And so.
The kid.
Yeah. So I'm watching, all my idols and they're just talking to me like normal, which is amazing because I was like up to their knee. And they're doing freestyle and doing actual freestyle and stuff. And Dave Mock was a freestyler, and so rode a freestyle board doing proper freestyle tricks, and it was just a flat slab that we're supposed to do this demo, and I've got no idea what to do because this is 85, so freestyle is the only flat ground. No one's really coming up with ollies or kick flips or hand plants or bonelesses or anything at that stage. So I didn't know what to do. So I'm just like standing, like throwing my board around and jumping on it, and like being a kook. And Adrian and Dave and Biff were just like really cool to me because I just, I was just there trying to have a go, and they were like, rad, like we're skating, we're having a go. And I'm just like looking at them, and I just want to impress them. I was like, I'm here. I've been asked to be here. I've got to do something. So I'm just like kicking my board around, like standing under my board and flipping it up and landing on top. Or I watched Dave Mock do like the original kickflip, which was you'd hook your foot under one side of the board and jump up, and it'd flip the board and land back on. So I was trying to learn that, or, flipping my board a long way so I'd land upside down and then flipping it back over, just like anything, just hoping to impress these guys. And they were so nice to me because I already knew them because we skate North Ride every weekend. And they were just cool. I was just geeking out, like, oh my God, I hope I'm not being too much of a kook. And then it wasn't until like just over a year later that I got my first sponsorship. Peter would start giving me a discount every now and then at Skateboard World, the same, because I've been in the shop since forever and I worked there for a little bit. But when Core Park, the vert ramp that everybody knows, when that opened, which was Christmas, just before Christmas '86, Tim Dorr built that. Sin came out. Sin had been living in the US at that stage and was just starting Airwalk shoes. He came out and he was giving us all Airwalk stickers for this shoe brand that was about to drop that no one knew what it was.
Dude, wild. And
they built the ramp and surfaced it, and Saxon Looker owned Sunshine surfboards on Pittwater Road further into Manly, and he asked Durwood if there were any kids there that were worth sponsoring. And I'd been skating with Durwood for a few years. All those Blue Ramp guys, as I said, they kind of raised me and shaped my character when I was younger. And Durwood really looked out for me, Him and his brother Paul, anyone give me shit, they would just, they'd be on them. And Durwood was like, yeah, this kid Chad, like he's a Manly local, he's been, put him on the team. I was like, oh. And he's like, go down, ask for Saxon, he wants to talk to you. I like, go down. He's like, okay, we want to sponsor you. I'm like, what? Oh, and I was like, okay. And he just like, they started giving me product, and he bought like.
How old were you?
How old was I? 86, 14.
Nice.
And skateboarding was really just starting to, like late 86 was when it really just, beginning of 86, dead, end of 86, just blowing up, The Hardcore brothers brought Alan Losey out to do a demo. Skateboard World had just built the Coke ramp. Losey did a demo in Martin Place at the pit, late September 86, I think that was. And, people were flooding in. Mitch had his ramp out at Quakers.
Mitch
Newell had his ramp out at Rydalmere.
Yeah.
Andrew Hulley had pulled down his ramp by that stage. There was a scene starting to develop on the northern beaches around DY with Bonza skateboards. The Frost brothers had just the most terrible ramp in their backyard, but they were the raddest guys, and that whole crew was just rad, and they were just about having fun. And Bonza Skateboard sponsored them, and an old mate of mine, one of the older guys who grew up skating with at Manly, Ben Brown, was doing all the artwork for them. Ben, who's like Australia's pusshead. Ben's like one of the greatest artists Australia's ever produced. Does band posters for all the top acts in the world. Like, Ben's rad. Used to get him to do the artwork for us for Bowlarama at Bondi. And so there were, things started developing, but it was just, there are only a handful of people sponsored because it wasn't big enough at that stage, and sponsorship didn't really mean that much because there hadn't been too many people. So I got sponsored by Sunshine, and they, for some reason,
Sunshine
surfboards.
Gotcha.
And for some reason, they got this huge shipment of Powell Swiss bearings, and they just had this cabinet full of them.
No way.
I was like, here you go. I'm like, what? Put them on my board. I was like, no turning back after that.
Were they as good then as they are now?
Yeah.
They were like...
They were always that good.
They were always good.
Yeah. And then
I never had a set when I was younger.
Yeah, and they had so many of them, so I just took for granted that I was getting these bearings. And so me and all my mates would start experimenting with them. It's like, okay, well, if you ride them dry and through dirt, they become really, really noisy. And the noisier they become, the faster they go.
Would you pop the casings?
Yeah.
You would do that?
Yeah, just to get them all gritty and dry and like sounding as gnarly as possible, and then they'd fly. So I got sponsored by them, and then things just started snowballing from there.
Amazing.
All of a sudden there were comps happening more regularly, demos. We already had a zine which kind of turned into, it was Dave from Massapilli who started Perfect Transitions as a zine.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a national zine, and there were road trips and
Perfect Transitions.
Yeah.
What year was that?
I'm trying to remember the first issue I saw was maybe 84 or something.
Because I've got some listener questions come in. So I've got a couple around sponsorship. So the first one is, I want to ask you, this question is from Keith Cochran, co-founder of Venture Trucks. Would like to know, who was your first American sponsor?
He already know. It was Keith. Keith was my first American sponsor.
So Venture Trucks was your first American sponsor?
Yeah, and I was kind of like,
no
I was
way.
I was one of the first Australian skaters to be directly sponsored by an American brand, not the distributor.
Because that was a big deal.
Yeah,
yeah, it still is a big deal.
Yeah, not the distributor. Keith still sends me trucks every now and then when I need them.
Keith, if you're out there,
yeah. And
I need some.
It was so funny because I was doing Speed Wheels magazine at the time, and I made a point of sending it on around the world to like every magazine I could find, just to let them know we're in Australia doing this scene.
Amazing. Because that was my next question. Is Jim Turvey, who is a friend of mine, he also writes articles for Slam magazine. His question was, how did you get involved in Speed Wheels magazine, and what was it like working in the publishing industry at such a young age?
I just left school. I dropped out of school. I was 16. I was terrible in high school, and I figured if I'm going to stay on for 11 and 12, I might as well have a crack. I've got to, try and make it work. But I was in art one day, and it was my favorite subject, and my art teacher just didn't like me for whatever reason. She dragged me out of the class, and she said, no matter how well you do, I'm not going to give you a passing grade. And I was just like, what? This is my favorite subject. And I was like, well, if I'm not going to be given a passing grade, no matter how good I do, like, what's the point of staying on, especially if this is my favorite subject? And I was starting to get like all this stuff happening in skating. I was doing demos or comps nearly every weekend, and had sponsorships, and by that stage I was doing a bit of TV work. Like if they needed a stunt double or something, like I get called as like the stand-in skater stunt double for stuff.
Dude, I remember seeing you on various things. Like, was it like an Ovaltine? No, not Milo Ovaltine. What was that? There was an ad you were on a lot of. Or was it on a cereal box?
Mick was on the
Milo can.
And then him and Blair and Cam Ward, I think, did the Sprite commercial.
That's right.
There was a couple, like I did this one for this kids' science magazine.
That's okay.
Which was so funny. Glenn Robinson and I, Glenn called me. I was like, I've got to go try out for this ad. Come with me. I'm like, all right. So he picked me up, and we drove out to Mona Vale. And there's a young kid that's the star of the commercial. And so he's not a skater, but they were looking at me, like Glenn was another skater in there, and they were looking at me to maybe be his stunt double. Anyway, I looked so young. They were just like, they watched me skating like, okay, you're the lead, and just kicked this kid out like right there on the spot. And I felt so bad, like this poor kid's like,
Brutal.
He's already hired on as the lead of the commercial. I'm like, nah, you're not the lead anymore, but we'll keep you in the commercial. And so it was like, just this kid got this science magazine and just like learned how to just experiment with stuff, and eventually turned his skateboard into a rocket and flew off into space. And so they strapped rockets to the bottom of my board, and I had to fly out the top of the vert ramp, and then the last show was just me floating in space.
No.
But it wasn't like a regular annual magazine where it's like, okay, this issue, March, April, May. It was a subscription thing, and so they must have ran off like 100,000 of them. So they'd sell them, didn't work. You know, a year later, try and relaunch it, and just kept recycling this thing. And they did it for like, I think 7 or 8 years.
Were you getting royalties and stuff?
No, I wasn't, because it was like I got paid once for it, and then because it was done through, I'm trying to remember, it was done through maybe through Skateboard or something. So I never got the recurring royalties, which sucked. I should have got that. And so that was funny. And then there was a video clip for a music video for ABC called Radical Wheels. And it turned out the girl singing it was a friend from high school. I hadn't seen her since I dropped out of high school. And so she was the lead singing yeah, Radical Wheels.
It was on ABC?
Yeah, it was on ABC. And
like a TV show?
No, it was just like
or a band?
It was just a music video clip for like 3 or 4 minutes. And Hannah singing like Radical Wheels.
But that would be played in between shows and stuff?
Yeah, it would just be played in between shows of an afternoon during the kids.
So that was getting high rotation.
And that got high rotation for like 20 years or something. It just kept going. And I never got residuals from that, which I should have. So I was riding for Manly. That came through Manly style skateboards I was riding for at that time. And I don't know what happened with the residuals. I should ask Sane about that, who owned the store. And and years later, I'd forgotten. You know, it was just this thing that I did, and I wasn't watching kids' TV at 3:30 in the afternoon, so I didn't know it was still playing. And years later, his friends had kids. They were like, "Oh my god, my kid saw you the other day," and it's like all they can do is talk about it, and the little 4-year-old or 5-year-old kid. I'm like, "What do you mean? Like you're their hero?" I'm like, "What?" Like from Radical Wheels. I'm like, when did they say that? It's like it's on TV every day.
How did you feel about being like recognizable?
I wanted,
even over the years,
like, look, you know, when I first started, I was like seeing all the pros and like, you want to be that guy. But then as I started getting noticed, I wasn't that comfortable with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. It's like the one thing I regret most from back then is I didn't sign the autographs. And that sounds like a really weird thing to say.
So what, you'd bar people if they tried to ask for an autograph?
Little kids would come up and ask me for my autograph, but I didn't feel I was worthy enough. I didn't feel like I was good enough to sign the autograph. So I'd be trying to have this deep and philosophical conversation with these little 8-year-old kids like, look, man, I'm not good enough. Like, you don't want my autograph. I'm not the guy.
So you were nice about it. You
Yeah.
weren't like, get away, kid.
But like, there's a guy over there. I'll go get his autograph for you. That's whose autograph you want, you know. And these little kids are looking at me like, what? You know, thinking all I'm doing is rejecting them when I'm not. I'm just showing like, I'm not good enough for this. There's someone better. Go get the better person.
How interesting.
I remember doing it, like there was a demo in Martin Place and I wasn't even skating in the demo. It was Tony Hawk and Hosoi and all that, 88. And I was just hanging out back at the stage. I was skating the shish kebab actually while the demo was on, just having fun.
Was it a street demo?
No, it was a vert demo.
Oh, they set up a vert ramp in Martin Place?
Yeah,
because my mind went to the hardcore demo that was at Opera House.
The
before
one
that.
the year before was in Martin Place in 87.
And it was a hardcore one?
That was insane.
The Opera House one or that one?
No, the one the year before.
Wow.
That was the first like proper pro They bought Losey out the year before, which was rad. Alan Losey's amazing and doesn't get anywhere near as much credit as he should for what he brought to skating. But the demo the next year was like they hardcore combined with JHS. So JHS bought out Steve Statham, Lance Mountain, and Tony Hawk, and then hardcore bought out who was in that Hosoi, I think Roscott, Nolder.
There's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Lee Ralph. I can't even remember all the names. It was huge. Like there were 11 pros, the biggest pros in the world at that time. And Hardcore built this vert ramp that covered that whole platform basically. It was like, I think it was 32.
At the shish kebab.
Yeah, 32-foot wide vert ramp.
So it was on that platform where the shish kebab was?
Yeah, and basically filled that whole place.
That's insane.
And there was scaffolding on the buildings at the time. They were doing building work on one of the buildings. People were all over the scaffolding, like 3-4 stories up, hanging off the scaffolding. It was rammed. You couldn't move in there. And
so sick.
And I remember we like the stuff we were doing down in North Wollongong with that ramp and that guy who I mentioned before started a skateboard association, New South Wales Amateur Skateboard League, and we were doing demos and stuff. And Mambo had just come out and say they were our first sponsor. They used to print all our shirts for us and all that
Reg
stuff.
Mombasa.
Yeah, and I think that they sponsored that tour. And I said to the guy, I was like, give me some stuff. He's like, why? I'm like, bring up shirt and stickers. He goes, why? I'm like, because everybody always asks these guys for a board or a sticker or whatever. And Kevin Thatcher, the editor of Thrasher's here, and everyone's always asking him for stuff. Like, let's give them something. Let's show them that, we're doing stuff. And so I got a T-shirt and stickers and went and gave it to Kevin Thatcher.
So no one else had that idea? Do you think it was your
everything was just kind of getting going then. So I just don't think it was,
So do you think in your mind you were realizing the value of endorsement?
Yeah, I was really realizing the value of that, but it was also trying to get our community recognized. It's like, hang on, the editor from Thrasher is in Australia.
Yeah.
Like, sure, there's this big demo with all the overseas pros, but let him know about who we are and what we're doing.
Like he's an Australian brand.
Yeah, here's an Australian brand. Here's stuff happening in Australia.
Was it the dog fart logo?
the
classic.
The dog trumpet.
Dog trumpet,
Yeah.
that's right.
Oh, my God. I should ask Jeff Fletcher if he's still got that.
That was a pretty trippy idea.
Yeah.
I reckon he was on acid when he thought of that.
Yeah, Reg Mombasa definitely came up with some interesting artwork back then.
That's what's so rad about art.
But, Dare really, he invested a lot in skateboarding the early years of Mambo, which was good.
Dude, I want to go off skating a little bit. I want to hear about so after you graduated high school in your early 20s, I know you were a club promoter for a while. Specifically, I know you were involved with famous Sydney nightclub Kinsella's and the Grand Pacific Blue Room. I don't want to jump around too much, but
I wasn't involved in Blue Room, though, just my mates. But the guy that started me at Kinsella's, Sean Finlay, I'd met him a couple of times skating, and I'd been overseas all of 1990. I was overseas skating, trying to make it, doing comps and all that. And I came back and my friends were like, oh, Kinsella's is the new hot club in Sydney. I'm like, Kinsella's? And yeah. We'll go on Friday night. They've got a rave night on the top floor. I'm like, okay, cool. So we walk in and I hadn't been there before, and they're like, okay, the ground floor is like the pub. And then we go up the stairs and there's a queue. I'm like, what's going on in there? I'm like, oh, that's the middle bar. I'm like, what's that? Like, we've never been in. You can't get in. It's just all the hottest models and celebrities. You can't get in there. We take maybe 5, and we're going to the top floor, to the rave club. Take maybe 5 steps up the next set of stairs, and I just hear, Chad Ford. And I'm like, what the hell? And I turn around, and Sean Finlay, I kind of knew his face. He's like, come here. And he grabs me and just pulls me into the middle bar in front of all the wine. Like, what the hell's going on here?
Oh, dude.
And he's like, oh my God, and like just starts telling people, this guy, Chad Ford, he's a pro skater, and like, oh, mate, you know, you've got to, every time he turns up, you just let him in. He doesn't have to go on the line. Like, what?
Like full VIP straight away.
I'm like, hey, I'm with my friends. We were going upstairs. He goes, bring them in. Go get them. Like, so I go get them, and they're all looking at me like, what the hell? Like, you've been overseas for a year. You've never been in this club. How have you done this? We've been coming here for a while now. Never been in here. Like, how did you do this? Like, I don't know.
Wow, dude.
And I start talking to Sean, and Sam Crothers is in there, and Emil Vrasakis, and I knew Sam from skating, and Emil was a skater. And so he's like, oh yeah, we're all skate. And he just introduces me to the bar stuff and goes,
but they owned a club as well.
well, they had the contract to run all the promotions of the club.
So they were young entrepreneurs?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
When you say, like, how old do you reckon those guys roughly were when they had that?
Sean's 4 years older than me. I was 19, so he was 23 at the time.
And he was running Kinsellas at that age.
Yeah, and I mean, he started throwing dance parties when he was like 17, 18 or some
that's
big
a
dance
wild
parties.
story as well.
And so he just was like, okay, told the security, I don't have to wait in the line. I can come in on my skateboard, bloody after a session. Told the bar staff, look, as soon as he comes in, you don't even ask him. You give him a shaker of illusions immediately, and you just give him free drinks all night. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Way.
He's like, you need to hang out with us. I'm like, yeah, I need to hang out with you. And after a few months, I was like, you're going to raves every Saturday night, aren't you? Like, yeah. He goes, you should start promoting the Friday night upstairs for us. Like, what do you mean? How do I do that? He goes, well, take a pile of flyers to every club and party you go to, just hand them out to people. Put a guest list together of all the coolest people that should get in for free to the club, and just buy them free drinks. And we'll give you, I think it was $200 a week. Go down to the office on a Monday or Tuesday and they'll give you $200. And I'm like, what? Okay. And so I started doing that while still skating every day. And I was just like, this is cool. Like, I like this. I like the music. I like the people. They're interesting people, really smart people doing really interesting things. And Sean kind of curated the crowd in the middle bar at Kinsella. So it was just full of just, you know, Elle McPherson and Julia McMahon, and then like surfers and just like musicians and DJs and fashion designers.
I remember.
Like such a really eclectic group of people, but they all had this one thing in common, that they loved the music, they loved going out, and they were creative in some way.
Yeah.
And so it was really like, oh, this is amazing. It's kind of cool to be around. It was kind of a little bit of an extension from what we'd been doing in skating, with putting stuff together and making stuff happen and encouraging our friends to be as creative as possible. You know, it was like, we're doing a comp. How do you put on a comp? I don't know. Well, we need ramps. Do you know how to build a ramp? No, but I've got tools. Okay, well, you're the ramp builder. We need a flyer. Do you anyone know how to design a flyer? No, but I've got access to a photocopier. Okay, you're the flyer design. You know, we just
like DIY. Everything.
Yeah, it was just DIY everything, and that's what that scene was like, but in a much more glamorous.
Hell yeah,
setting.
dude! So, like, how did you survive? I mean, so you're at bars and clubs every weekend. Like, I mean, how did you survive like the party culture, like drinking, maybe drug participation? Like, there would have been a lot of that.
There were certain drugs I just never did, just never interested me. I just didn't want to go down the path of addiction or any of that.
Or we're talking like cocaine.
Coke and opiates and all that stuff. And I didn't have the desire for that. Weed wasn't my thing because I'd watched all my friends get into weed, and then they'd be like, okay, hang on, I'm just going to take a bong rip before we go skate, and then just still be sitting there 4 hours later. I'm like, oh, well, hang on. You're still going to be smoking like after we finish skating, so let's go skate and then smoke.
Yeah.
Like, no, just have this. And they're like, but you're not skating anymore. You're just doing the bong rips.
Yeah.
Like, you can do both. So that didn't interest me, but I was drinking a lot. A lot.
Did it turn into an issue? Like a substance issue, like a
Kind of,
alcoholism?
definitely, here and there. Like I definitely had some moments, I definitely had a lot of moments with alcohol that just I probably should have backed off a little here and there. But things were changing in skating at the time, so I didn't have the same. All the stuff that we used to do went away, started going away. We weren't doing the demos every weekend anymore. We weren't getting paid anymore to do that stuff. So there wasn't money to ride your skateboard in Australia so much anymore. I still wanted to do stuff, but it just wasn't. So we started, Kinsella's did a skate night upstairs. Sam and Emil wanted to start doing little skate events. And so started doing that and just got more into that. And as I got more into that, I realized that I was more beneficial to skateboarding by doing things for skating rather than just being the hot skater, I was like...
Did you kind of have a moment where you thought, this will actually give me more longevity in it?
It wasn't that well thought through at the time. I remember I had both my knees operated on beginning of 92. 91 was kind of a bit of a wash for me with skating. I went overseas and I couldn't really skate properly because my knees were blowing out. So I had them operated on beginning of 92. I remember calling Keith in San Francisco and I'm like, hey man, like just have my knees operated on. I'm really chomping at the bit. I want to get back at it. And he goes, Chad, skating's changed. Skating changed overnight. And I was like, everyone's cutting all their transition skaters. They're keeping one transition guy on the team. And that guy has got to be like making the final at all the vert comps. Are you that guy? I'm like, well, I skate everything. You go, so you're going to go street skating. And at that time it was like 37.5 mil wheels and ridiculous pants and pressure flips. I was like, that's just boring as fuck, man. I just want to ride my board and be good at riding my board. And goes, and on top of that, you're 20. Like, you're really old. 20 is kind of like,
you're on your way out.
I'm like, 20, oh my God. And I was just like gutted. But, I'd gone from making a little bit of money in skateboarding and being stoked because skaters never get paid what they're worth. And then just making a lot of money in clubs and still getting to skate every day.
Yeah.
And then starting to do stuff. Like the next year, 93, I did my first skate park. I did Curl Park. And I was like, oh, hang on, this is really important. This is way more important.
I'm so glad that you've transitioned into that. No pun intended. But so tell the story about how you got involved in the design and creation of Curl Park street part, not the vert ramp. That was already there.
So I was in Manly one day with my girlfriend and I was at the crossing waiting to go back onto the ferry, and Blair Heath's little brother Simon Heath was there. He's like, Chad, no way. Oh my God, I should have thought of you. I'm like, well, what? What do you mean, Simon? And he goes, we've had money to build an extension to Curl Park for a year, and we've been relying on this other person in skateboarding who was supposed to be the person at the time to help with stuff, and he's just let us down, hasn't done anything, and we're going to lose the funding in 2 weeks if we can't figure out what to do. Can you help us? I'm like, oh, give me a call. So I had a meeting that week. I came over because Simon was on the Manly Youth Council. So I went over, met with the youth council, and there was a guy from council who was project manager. I think there was one, the cops there, community liaison cop and stuff. And they're like, can you help us? Simon seems to think you can help. So I will explain to them, we've got $40,000. We've got this area. We want to build some ramps. And at that time, skate stuff was happening, but there was like metal ramps and wooden ramps, and they were falling to bits. And I grew up on concrete before the vert ramp half pipe era. I was skating North Ride and Five Dock, and concrete. I love concrete. And I said, well, why don't we do it out of concrete? And like concrete, and in the back of my mind, I was trying to pull one over them. I was like, thinking if I can con them into building this out of concrete, it won't make noise and it won't fall apart, so they won't pull it out. If they build this out of concrete, they'll just leave it. Whereas if it's built out of metal or wood, they're going to be like, the neighbors are complaining, it's falling to bits. Yeah. Like, let's just yank the thing out. So I'm thinking, like, I'm gonna pull one over on these suckers, like, go concrete. And they're like, huh? And they went with me and they're like, okay, we want to pay you to do this. I'm like, what? This wasn't a thing. I'm like, what do you mean pay me? And they're like, well, we need to pay you something because we want you on this project to a completion. You're going to carry this through for us. I'm like, well. And so they paid me $20 an hour, and they put an architect with me. He came over and sat at my mum's dining table, and we came up with a plan. And there wasn't enough space to do 4 walls. It was just too small to get the spacing. And I was trying to come up with a design that would allow people to get flow to use everything and have a ledge in there and have a small handrail and just enough to tick a couple of boxes for what was happening in skating at the time. And when we got on site, they got a local pool builder to do the concrete. And they were trying to figure out how to do it. And I just, in my head, I was like, okay, let me make you some tools to do this right, because we've got to get it exactly right. Because, growing up running 5 Dock and North Ride, which, 5 Dock's one of the gnarliest pieces of concrete in the world. Jake Phelps nearly died in there. It's horrendous. So I was like, okay,
so gnarly.
We got to get the transitions right and the coping right. And they're like, well, how do we do this? And so I just got some plywood, traced the transition, like, well, this gives us the shape for the walls and this gives us the right depth for the coping. Just drag this along. And they work with me. They taught me how to work with concrete. I taught them how to get the right shapes. But then when we came to the fun box in the middle, the radius didn't fit. I was like, that's weird. And like, I speak to the architect that night and he goes, oh, well, there's a whole bunch of like almost flat area at the end of a transition that's just like dead space. So I got rid of that. I was like, what? No, like that's the whole, like you've created this kink now. So on site, I just had to come up with a new transition. That's why the transitions.
But wait up, they didn't do that for the other parts.
Yeah, didn't do it for the other parts because they thought there was more space on the sidewalls. They thought they were
learning from that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I was like, this is insane. Nuances. So I had to like come up with drawings on site to do this. And then the park was built. It was a success. It got a lot of press. And then councils contacted Manly and was like, we want to build a skate park. How come you're getting all this press about this park? And they said, well, we hired this kid. You should too. So the next year I had 2 parks, the next year 4, the next year 8, and it just became this thing. And nobody was doing that point. And then Convict started doing stuff, and I think it was like 96, and Rob Lewis with Concrete was around then as well.
Can I stop you there? Can I just get inside your mind a little bit? If we go back to when you originally were working on that project, like, and then it's then led to other projects. Like, was there fear? Was there anxiety? Like, I want people to try and understand what it takes to sort of break ground in new areas.
Totally, because
how did you overcome it? Really,
because this is something I'm doing for my friends. These are my best mates. I'm doing this thing for, so I want to do the best I possibly can.
And so you're dealing with council members, you're dealing with concreters, contractors, and you're just a kid.
Yeah.
Or in your early 20s?
I think when was 90,
you would have been in your
93, so
mid-20s.
I just turned 21. Yeah.
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 So yeah.
And I'm dealing with architects trying to tell me how to design stuff when they've never ridden a skateboard in their life and don't even know what a skate park looks like. I'm dealing with engineers who are trying to tell you different things and how to do safety, and it's like, but that won't work because you can't skate on that if it's too safe. Like, that's not the point of skating. And then people are like, oh, you need to put this anti-graffiti coating on. Like, no. Like, every surface in a skate park is the flat ground. No matter if it's a vertical wall, it's still flat ground, and you have to treat it as such. Your anti-graffiti coating is for a vertical wall that nobody's ever going to walk on, and you can't walk on that if it's on flat ground. So you can't do that.
So it's all these little details, but
And I was doing all that, but then like with the transition being wrong, I was like, hang on a second. I always wanted to be an architect. So I did tech drawing all through high school. I did woodshop and art and learned how to figure out designs, because we had to design our projects and then build them. And I was like, I can do these drawings myself. So the next project, I was like, I'm doing the drawings. So, because I don't want that same thing to happen again. So I started doing the drawing and just started like developing my drawing skills more and more and pushing that. And that was kind of like really nervous because I was like, am I getting this right? I'm working with professionals who've been doing this for decades, and I'm sitting there as like this weird little skater going, oh, please just build this, and like giving them my scratchings on paper, hoping it was good enough. And it ended up, thankfully working out, but it was just so many things of, because they wanted, what happened a lot was people wanted to do skate parks. And they get the skaters in, and the skaters just start carrying on and fighting amongst themselves. Well, it should be this and it should be that. And they would turn the council off wanting to do a skate park. It's like, well, they don't have gratitude. They can't work things out amongst themselves. This isn't going to work. Okay, we're not doing it. And so I started talking to them in the way they need to hear. And when the first couple of projects I go in like in a collared shirt and long pants. But then I was like, hang on a second. No. They need to deal with skaters.
Yeah.
They need to know who this is for. So then I started going in shorts and a T-shirt. And they'd look at me, they'd make comments about my clothing. But then I was so professional in how I dealt with them. I'd speak the language. Well, we need to do this, and this is why you need to do it this way and this way. And they're like, oh, hang on a second. And skaters would be carrying on. And so we'd have these public forums, and I'd like start getting everyone to understand how to approach it. So you want the skate park, don't you? Yeah, we do. And it's like, well, then figure out how to work together so we can get the skate park. Because right now you're not going to get it, how you're carrying on. So you've got a skater in the building. Let's work together and figure out how to
you fell into the position as like a representative effectively.
Yeah.
But sorry, were you communicating with skate communities as well? Well, like, were you the intermediate?
Because every project, I always felt it was really important with every project to have a public forum with the skaters.
And so you'd kind of lead that, and then you'd sort of translate and take the ideas to council.
Well, with council, we're at that meeting. Council were always at those.
But
meetings
you were the
as well.
spokesperson.
Yeah,
and you just fell into that.
Yeah, it just kind of. I remember one of my mates from high school lived in Annandale, and we used to put like quarter pipes and jump ramps in Whites Creek Park. And the council would always rip them out. And so he started a petition to try and get a skate park built there. I'm trying to remember what year that was. I think it was probably 86, like late 86 maybe. And they had a public meeting for Leichhardt Council and it was just a general public meeting. People could get up and platform stuff, and the skate park was on the agenda. He really wanted me there, even though I was like, but this is your thing. You're doing all this. And he goes, no, I want you there. And I go, okay, we need someone from the skateboard community to stand up and talk about this project. Next thing, Adams grabbed me and just pushed me up. I'm like, what? And he goes, you're talking. I'm like, what? And he goes, that's why you're here. You're the one doing the presentation. Like, you hadn't given me anything. I was like, I just had to talk off the cuff about just pull stuff out of the air. And I was 14. And so I'm probably a lot of people laugh, but I'm generally pretty shy, and I don't like putting myself forward in a lot of situations. I'd rather just sit back and take everything in. And so I was just like up there, and I just had to talk, and I couldn't cock it up because it was so important. So I just had to I was so nervous, but I just had to just present and talk as best as possible because this was our one shot. And after the meeting, Dawn Fraser was a counsellor at the time, and she came up to me and she goes, you know what? I was really impressed with your talking. I wasn't going to back this, but after listening to you talk, and I'm really impressed. You carried yourself really well. I'm going to back the skate park. Keep doing what you're doing.
Wow.
I was like, what? And then the council were like, okay, you two kids, you need to come in and speak to us, and we need to figure this out. And so then Adam and I, because Leichhardt Council is just down the street from our high school, so we go in after high school every now and then and sit down with them and talk about like how to do the plan and where it should go and what should be in there. And they're like, you kids kind of, this is good. You've like you're giving us way more knowledge than we would have thought from your years. This is really constructive, And then it just went away. It didn't happen. Then randomly, 88, they built a skate park without consulting with us. After all that consultation, everything we've been through, went away. Year or two later, they're like, oh, here you go, and just put a donut bowl in the wrong side of the park, directly behind some neighbours. It lasted 6 months. The neighbours complained it was too noisy and the back fence was torn out. But it was just, I don't know why, but people would put me in those situations and just kind of like, built up.
Like time and place, or maybe people seen something in you that you didn't see. These are common things.
Yeah, I
maybe
definitely
it's
didn't.
just your journey. Maybe you were just the chosen one.
Yeah, I doubt that. I don't know, right place, right time or something.
But with that though, Chad, it comes with heavy criticism when you are put in those positions.
Oh yeah,
from a variety of stakeholders.
For sure,
Definitely skateboarders. They'd love to criticise. Probably from counsellors, the general public.
Just the stuff I've heard over the years, the excuses people come up with for it not to happen, or the way people in public are talking about skateboarders and the things they're saying about us. And like, we're right in front of you. We can hear you're saying this out loud.
Yeah. And
then skaters just like watching what they're doing against their best interests. Like there was Fernside, for example, when I did Fernside in 2006.
So you were the lead designer on Fernside at Waterloo?
Yeah.
No way.
And that was such a nightmare, because there were a couple of people in the skate community that were making it a nightmare, just purposely
trying to sabotage it?
They were looking out for their own personal interest.
In regards to design?
In regard to the design. So what should have been a 6-month process ended up being an 18-month process in the design period.
Yeah.
And it was compromised in the end because there aren't enough proper height ledges around there, which should have been, and a couple of other things. And at one point, the council said, hey, we're not promising this, but there's an opportunity here. We can double the size of this park. What we want you to do is go back, take 2 months, redo. You've already come up with a design that has been approved. The skaters are like, okay, we want that. But go away and double the space and take into account everything else that has been said, because they did this really deep questionnaire with all the locals. What do you want in this park? And quite honestly, a lot of that wasn't in the design because of a couple of people. And so put that stuff in. And so we went back and presented this design. It was like twice the size. I had a half basketball court with proper height ledges around that, so you could just have a flat ground session there and skate.
Slap your curbs.
Yeah, it was all just for the 56-year-olds in the room. And
I'm not.
I'm not quite there yet. Almost. And one of the things that everybody said, they wanted a little spine ramp and a bowl and a mini ramp. I was like, well, I can combine those. I can do this tiny little 4-foot high square bowl into a rectangular bowl with a spine. They'll be really fun, really mellow tranny, muck around. And it's tucked in way over in the corner over here, out of the way. So one skater comes into the meeting when we're presenting, and the first thing he does is he sees the bowl and goes, okay, no. And he just gets everyone behind, like, we're not doing this, it's got a bowl. And the council, they're going, hang on, we want to give you twice as much park here. It's still got the park here that you wanted, and we're just adding all this stuff. No, we don't want it. It's got a bowl. And the council and they're looking at me like, what? Like, this makes no sense. We're trying to give them twice as much park. And for this little bowl in the corner, no, we don't want any of that because of this 4-foot bowl over in the corner. And so the council, okay, sure. We go back to this. You get this park then. And then, a few years later, they hire me to design the mini ramp that sits right where the pole was going to be. And everyone's like, yeah. And everyone wanted in on what that mini ramp dimension should be.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
Fernside is obviously the core skate park in Sydney now, despite all the amazing skate parks that have been built in Sydney, in the city. I mean, Fernside's like,
it's funny because
it's where all the core skaters go.
It took on that life when it had like all the metal street ramp, the crappy metal street ramps.
I remember. Yeah.
I remember Davo had like
how sick! I know the one.
Ollie.
Yeah.
But before that, it was a vert ramp. Like the first thing on the site was a vert ramp. They had this. I think it was 8 foot high, 8 foot tranny vert ramp, and we used to have a comp there every year. And, that was.
Can we talk about your involvement in the design of Bondi Bowl?
Yeah. Bondi, what happened, I got asked to do a park at Maroubra. And I got asked to do that, it was just before Christmas, 96. And they wanted it in by Easter 97. Did the design. It was street area and they had more money. And I'm like, well, we've covered all the bases with the street area. We couldn't go further. Can I use the rest? They're like, use the rest of the money. I'm like, well, can I put a bowl here in the corner? I'm like, well, not a vert ramp. We've got a vert ramp up the street. Nobody uses it. No more vert ramp. I'm like, okay, can I? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then the day it was going in for the DA, a certain skater made a false petition and had a petition from all of Sydney's top vert skaters petitioning to not have the bowl built because they wanted a vert ramp. And the council like, but we've already said we're not building another vert ramp. We built one for you up the street. You don't use it. So we're not building another one here. So, and they faxed over the petition and I looked at it and I was like, hang on a second. It was like Finn's name was on there, Mole's name was on there, all these skaters' names on there who wanted the bowl. So this person who'd done this petition had just like put everyone's name and signed the names themselves and sent it to the council. And council like, well, because we've got a petition, we can't lodge the DA today. We've got to pull the DA, consider the petition. And so this was going to be stage one of the Maroubra Beach development. Bob Carr had just gotten into government. It was his area. He gave him millions of dollars to redevelop Maroubra Beachfront. So it was going to be stage one. It ended up when we finally built it in 2002, was stage 134 or something. It took, what was that, 6 more years to get built. And I was really frustrated because there was just momentum just starting to happen with the skate park stuff. And I knew where that was positioned and what was on offer would completely blow up skate parks and just get us so many more skate parks way quicker. And so because it got pulled, there was a trickle in skate parks over the years. And then when it did get built in 2002, it boomed, like because of that park, which would have happened 6 years earlier.
Fuck, man, it's so interesting hearing anyway,
which was
keep going.
So frustrating. Anyway, the guy, Jeff Reinhardt from Waverley Council, contacted me. And he's like, hey, meet me at Bondi Beach. You know what's going on here. We need to do a new park. We're getting rid of the mini ramp. The vert ramp's already gone.
Can I just ask, I'm asking for a mate, like where did the mini ramp go? Like,
I thought it was so good, that mini ramp.
Has anyone still got the transitions available anywhere? Like
Saturday sessions of that mini ramp were just the best.
Dude, it was the best mini ramp.
Yeah, it was so good.
I don't know why it was so good.
I came back from overseas 1990 and there was a mini ramp comp there in 91. And I ended up getting third, Bart second, and Davo first. And that was the first time I'd met Davo.
Isn't that funny? Like, Davo, probably one of the best street skaters Australia's ever produced.
And
but destroys transitions as well. Yeah.
Like insane. I just remember this little 16-year-old kid just tearing it to pieces.
Mate, he was the king of Sydney.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going. This is interesting.
So he gets me to meet him on site at Bondi, and he goes, okay, we want to do this. I'm not choosing you, but I want to hear your ideas. And I said, well, it's Bondi Beach. You should do something. It's going to be just whatever you put here is going to be one of the 5 most famous skate parks in the world because the mini ramp already is. So whatever you do should live up to that reputation.
When you say 5, what were you comparing them to? Like what, Venice Park?
Marseille Bowl. Venice wasn't there at that time. You know, I'm trying.
What would you have compared it to? Marseille.
I'm trying back. You know, that's a bit of a head scratcher, but you know.
Anyway, keep going.
Definitely Marseille.
I'm throwing off the track.
Yeah. So I said it should be something of international worth, and it should be challenging. And originally, I thought it should be something like Marseille because, you know, of its location and its history. You know, it was a transition. It was vert and a mini ramp, and you're replacing a vert and a mini ramp on site, and it's at the beach. But some locals were like, no, it's got to be street. It's got to be like proper street. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And then for where it is, that makes sense for, you know, do the right thing in the right location. And Fernside, perfect location for a street park. Perfect.
Great.
Always should have been that. You know, and so they shot down the Marseille idea. Like, we want street stuff. And then the council started like laying on site restriction. So anyway, jumping back a step, Jeff was like, okay, I love this. You're hired. I want you to do it. I'm backing you.
So they approached you originally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I told him I think it should be something of international standard. It should be challenging, you know. He goes, okay, I'm backing you. So then I'm dealing with the locals and they're like, it's got to be street stuff. I'm like, well, actually, there's a stormwater channel that's directly under the park. So the bottom park where that long bit of flat sits on top of, and we can't do anything on top of that in case they need access at some point to get works there. It's a steep hill. And I had to put it into the hill and not obstruct any views from up on the hill or the car park. You had to have like this clear view channel. So it dips down in the middle on the beach side on the bottom so you can get this clear view down. And so I had all these different restrictions. And for years I'd been the skate parks I was designing, if you flew over the top of them, they were designing themselves. So from a plane, it was
because of the
unique
geography.
Design.
Yeah.
I just, you know, like in New Zealand, all the parks I did over there were all traditional Maori design. And I started mucking around with that. And I wasn't telling anyone. I was just kind of doing it just to keep me interested.
When you say Maori design, what do you mean? Like the shapes?
Yeah.
Like a Maori tiki or type? Yeah. Like the shape of a tiki?
Yeah, the first park I did over there was
that's so rad.
Was Tiki's face in Whakatane in 98. And someone just painted it out a few years ago and it went like viral all around the world because someone had figured out what I'd done and they'd painted the tiki face properly on this park so you could see it from the air and it looks amazing. I never got any credit for it.
So you didn't tell anyone that you were considering that in your design process?
No. I just started doing it and I'd been doing it for years. And anyway, some people at Waverley Council had clocked it and they're like, okay, so we've got ideas for you. And they're like giving me all these ideas. We want you to do this and this. And it's like, can you write Bondi Waverley? I'm like, no, that makes no sense. You know, it's just like you can't fit anything in. And eventually someone goes, oh, there's some traditional Aboriginal rock carvings at North Bondi on the golf course that I think you'd be really interested in. Go and have a look. Yeah. So I go up there and have a look and there's a shark carved in there. I'm like, oh, that would be kind of rad. So the bottom bowl is based on the shark. And then I was like, well, you know, you've got the hill and it could be a wave. Like the crest of the wave is up the top of the hill because that's where all the power is. And the crest of the wave could be the bowl. And because I wanted to, you know, there was a vert ramp there that was important. And so let's bring some vert back. And the bottom area, street skaters want stuff. So I was trying to, you know, people think it's a bit wacky, that design, but it flows.
It's unique, that's for sure. I was skating it the other day.
You figure out the lines, it flows and it gives you stuff. And there's so many things in there that people still haven't touched, but they're really just sitting there. They're easy to do. But I wanted a park that in 20, 30 years' time, someone could still turn up and do something new and do something spectacular with the backdrop behind them.
In the street section.
Yeah,
not the bowl,
postcard moments.
Right.
And then the bowl was just kind of like an aside for everybody else. But for me, it was kind of like, well, you know, I want to do this. You know, I want to. And then
so the focus was the street section originally.
Yeah, and people were so pissed because they just want like proper, just like really boring, like
plaza
square, not even plaza, just like square hips and just like flat banks and ledges. And it's like, well, that's cool, but this is just the wrong space for this, man. You know, like. And so we went through the process, and everybody signed off on it. Everybody. Like, we had so many meetings and everybody signed off, which years later, I was like, no, he just did his own thing. It's like, no, we had so many public consultations on that and everyone signed off. So when it came for the bowl, I was living overseas and I came back to do the construction. And when I came back, the same person who caused the problems with Maroubra then started causing problems with Bondi. And they were getting a lawyer who happened to be a mate of mine's ex-girlfriend. So she clued me in on what they were trying to get her to do. They were going to go to the Land and Environment Court to stop construction of the park so that I couldn't put the tile and the pool coping on the bowl. They wanted steel coping, no tile. I was like, you're insane. Like, this is your opportunity. We had this huge council meeting about it one night, while we're already in construction. And Jeff from council quietly, while we're at the table, he goes, okay, why concrete coping over steel coping? And he's a surfer. So I gave him a surfing analogy. I said, well, you know, surfing Bondi 6 foot, it's a soft wave. You know, it's 6 foot, but it's a soft wave. Surfing South Narrabeen at 6 foot is a incredibly powerful wave. It's just like, you know, such a strong wave. I'm trying to give you South Narrabeen. They're trying to give you Bondi. He's like, okay, we're sticking with the concrete coping. And then I've got another analogy for it as well with, you know, like a rotary motor and a V8 motor. When you drive the car, like the way you feel the motor rumble from a V8 rather than a rotary, even though you're going the same speed. Yeah, it's just a more.
In terms of the kidney shape design, like
so that was
like that was just
that was kind of like
easy to come by.
It was kind of like I did it as like the crest of the wave, like the wave breaking. You know and
like are these all things that like in your design brief to council they just love hearing?
No, because I wasn't telling council when I was doing this stuff back then.
Was it just your creativity?
It was just my creativity coming through, and I wasn't using that as a sales pitch. But then people at Waverley Council found out about it. I'm like, well, okay, can you write, you know, as I said, Bondi, Waverley Council, like, you can't do that. Like, that's just not going to work. Well, what about this and what about that? And they all were chipping in, and I was like, it's not going to work. And then, you know, looking at the bowl, it's like, oh, it's kind of a back to front B, so that stands for Bondi, I guess. And because I was I knew the people who I had to get it approved by, the skaters, were vert skaters, weren't concrete bowl skaters. So I added in some flat wall in the bowl to like talk to them so they would understand that. But they still weren't steel coping, which is insane. Anyway, it got built. But also one of the things with the bowl too was I wanted to go bigger, but I couldn't because the sidewall of the bowl, the overseas telecom cable that connects Australia to the world, is right there. I sprayed the sidewall and the platform on top of the overseas telecom cable that connects
Where
us.
is it? It's under the platform?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
It's right up under the coping on the sidewall.
So if they had to fix it, they'd have to rip the bolt, parts of the bowl out?
Well, they get it. They can, because it's cable, they can get access at a certain end and reel it in. Yeah. And then, the shallow.
Who would have ever known that shit?
And the shallow end, just off the shallow end, there's power boxes there. And what sucks is they gave me the wrong location of the power boxes. So that's as far back as I could push the shallow end. Whereas once we got on site and started building, it's like, oh, they're way further back. We could have done a bigger shallow end. And, you know, and initially I had a square hip, and Finn wanted a square hip. Finn loved Charleston hanger. It was like his favourite bowl he'd ever in. It was a wooden bowl. He was like, a square hip, they're so good, you can blast over them. And I was like, okay, I'll put a square hip in. And then Finn passed. And so I was all like, I'm doing the square hip for Finn. I'm doing the square hip for Finn. And they're like, we don't want the square hip. And then they were insulting Finn in this meeting because he took his own life, so he's not even here.
In a council meeting?
Yeah. I'm like,
who was saying that? Like, I mean, not council. Really?
No, skaters.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm not going to name names. So it's just like, that's just a shitty thing to say, you know. Like, we all love Finn, and, you know, it's a shame what happened, but there's mental health issues that were never recognised or dealt with that. So I'm still committed to doing the square hip, and they're like, no, it's got to be round him. I'm like, okay, but that changes because of the sizing, the waterfall. And so the waterfall's tighter than I would normally have it.
Noticed.
I had no choice. That's just what we could do in the space. So I had all these site restrictions that I had to deal with. And I was like, okay. So we had $400,000 to build that park. So I'm really happy with what we achieved in the end. I think it's still there's still guys going there. Like, did you see that Grant Taylor clip last year? Oh my God. You know, so that's all sitting there, and people can go and find these lines and do all this stuff still, and just still have new things.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because like I skated it again. I skated it like once a year, I reckon, and it's just been resurfaced by Shane Serena and his crew. It's amazing what they've just obviously not changed the design, but just fixed it all up. I think they took out some coping in one section, made it concrete.
Yeah.
I can't exactly remember. But I was skating it and going, I think you really just need to approach this as like a DIY spot.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just like there's so many little possibilities in there. Yeah, I mean it doesn't handle crowds very well, but if you get it by yourself, a small crowd.
Yeah. So, you know, I understand criticisms like the bowl itself. I wanted a square corner for corner airs. And I was looking at the original combi pool in the States, and I always thought the square corners were tighter. And so I did a 4-foot radius in that corner. It should have been, I guess the originals were 6 foot. So it should have been 6. But it's too tight. It's
still a popular feature, man. Everyone loves it.
People still use it, you know. So there's a couple of little things here and there, you know, you nitpick your own worst critic, really.
Look, listening to all of this and your involvement in like literally the most significant skate parks in Australia and New Zealand, I mean, it just sounds like obviously very satisfying in the end, but also like a lot of bullshit to deal with, a lot of politics. Like, how many times did you say to yourself in these processes, like, why do I bother doing this stuff? Like, do you feel like just throwing it in? Like, I don't want to be involved, especially when, you know, you're having, dealing with like counsellors who have no idea, skaters with conflicting views on what it should be.
It gets.
Why didn't you throw it in?
It wears you down after all. It does wear you down because you're like, I'm just, you know, I'm not getting paid much at all because these projects go on over several years. So it's not a full-time salary. It's a bit here, and you've got to do stuff in the meantime to support yourself.
Another job, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a kind of a thankless task, but I could see the benefit. I could see the long game. You know, once I started doing a few parks and started doing a few more, and there was commitments to do more and more, and other people started coming into it, and they were getting more parks and more parks. It's like, hang on a second. How about if every park is different and you're like, you know what? I like living here. I want to live in this neighborhood because it's got a bowl. I want to live in this neighborhood because it's got a street plaza. I want to live in this neighborhood because it's got a vert ramp. I want to live in this neighborhood because it's got a downhill section that we're allowed to use for slalom, you know. And you say that to skaters and like, oh, slalom, full pipe. No, man, I'm hardcore. I want this. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But there's actually a big group of skaters that skate that stuff too. So let's give them a spot. And you can't have all the spots. You're never going to ride them all. And at a certain point, you're just going to be mimicking stuff. And it's like, why would you have like 10 of the same thing in one city?
Yeah, totally.
You know, so I was like looking at the long game. It's like, okay, well, let's start trying to do more interesting stuff and different stuff at every park. So everything's, you know, people like look at Fernside and look at Bondi. They don't think that there's any person connected to those. You know, there isn't a person that did both those projects. It's like completely different people. You know? But that's how it should be when you're doing parks. They should be completely different. And, you know.
Especially when there's no real, at the time, there was no real template to work off. Like nowadays, because it has progressed, you know, there's these skate park builders and designers who, you know, they have perfected the perfect ledge height. They've got the measurements now.
Yeah.
You know, they've got the perfect spacing dimensions. Whereas it feels like back when you were doing it, you didn't have anything to compare to. Am I correct?
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, this would be rad.
And people would come to you with ideas. I remember I can't remember who it was. There was a skater in Adelaide, and we were at a party one night. Morgs and I were down there doing this like tour around Australia to set up this Coke mini ramp team thing. And we were at this bar, and this one skater came up, and he was super nice to me. He's like, "Man, I've always wanted to meet you. I really look up to you with the skate park stuff. It's so awesome." You know, I had this idea about like a street park that's just like normal pedestrian, like all the stuff we ride on the street, and that's it. Well, so like stairs and ledges and handrails, and that was it. I looked at him. I was just like, no. He's like, but like, and it's just for skaters. Like pedestrians aren't allowed in there. It's like, yeah, no. And he was gutted, and it's like it ended up becoming what street plazas are. But if you've got all that budget to spend on skateboarding in a skateboard exclusive area, then make it skate friendly. It's cool. Do all that.
Yeah.
Do all those things. But make sure you can still ride your skateboard around the park. Be able to do a lap. There's some parks I don't like because I don't understand. It's like, hang on a second. You made a skate park where you've actually got to pick your board up to get from A to B in certain parts of the park. That makes no sense. You should at least be able to ride your skateboard around the whole park, do a lap. So,
without pushing or barely pushing.
Or pushing, without pushing, whatever. But you should be able to ride around without your wheels having to leave the ground unless you're going down some stairs or off a ledge or something. You know, so because it's like you've got this money, make it skate friendly. Sure, do all the stuff, put all those obstacles in.
Yeah. If you look at some modern Sydney skate parks that have been built, what are some ones that you had no involvement with but really respect and like?
The Convict did this one out kind of near Strathfield, tiny little park. Yeah, oh my God, over 20 years ago.
Okay.
And it's rad. It's so small and it flows. And it's got like a mellow pyramid that you can blast off of. It's got a flat bank with a little gap and kind of a ledge on top and a little kicker in the middle. It's got a ledge, perfect height to the side. It's got a flat bar. It's got a little horseshoe mini ramp with a rad hip that you can blast off of. And then like quarter to flat bank. So small, so simple. You can have so much fun. We all used to go out there.
Simple. So you said you used the word simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bondi's not simple. Bondi's nothing.
Like I said, I was having a good look at Bondi the other day because my son was skating it as well. And like to me, it was just like a classic 90s design where, yeah, look, some of the proportions are out. Like that ledge is too big for that run up.
Yeah.
Or it's, you know what I mean? Or that's too low or you can't get a line to that. But the thing is, there was so many parks like that. There's a bunch of 90s parks where the ledges were always way too high.
Oh my God. So
you know, or the pyramid was way too big as like a BMX jump.
Do you remember when we were doing the Nowra Park?
Oh, that was a classic example.
And behind the mall. Yeah. And so
Stockton.
We're doing the public consultations and all the skaters were coming going, you've got to build my design. You've got to build my design. Everyone had their own, like, this is what you have to do there. It's like, well, no. All of you get a say. Let's do something that works for all of you. And what worked against that park in the end was the council. It had taken so long to get in. They're like, we're going to stick it behind the mall. No one wants to deal with skaters. We're going to put them out of the way.
Yeah.
And then it had been there for a couple of years, and they're like, oh, no, that's the worst place. They're out of the way. We don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
We're going to tear it out.
And it was on a swamp.
Yeah, and it was on a swamp. And so they got me to design that in stages because they wanted to add different things to it in the years. But one of the locals came up to me and goes, this is what you need to do. This is skateboarding right now. And I think it was like 47 ledges. And that's all it was just 47 ledges. And they all varied in height from like 5 centimeters to 60 centimeters. And that's it. It was just like, what, dude? Like, really? Like, I'll be shot. Like, it's going to have, we'll figure out ledges, we'll put ledges. And it's like, no, this is, it's like, in a couple of years, you're going to be so off that.
But it seems like there is an expectation that there's a plaza element to all skate parks these days.
Yeah.
And there is.
Yeah. And why we couldn't do that back in the early days because we just didn't have the budget. Bondi was only $400,000
for both the bowl and the street.
For the skate park itself.
The whole thing.
Yeah. And then
No way.
And then they gave this landscape architecture firm $440,000 to do the landscaping around the park. So they gave them more.
You're kidding.
And
I did not know.
I get there because I was living overseas. I came back to build that park and they'd already done some stuff on site. And so this landscape architecture firm completely ignored the brief and built all these walls around the park, which completely blocked the views and the passive view into the skate park, which I was told was paramount, and that's how they were getting it approved. And I got there and I was like, what the hell? And I was like, walking down, you can't see into the park here. You can't see into the park here. You can't see up into the park. You can't see the beach from the car park. What the hell? And the landscape architect was so arrogant, and I was trying my best to talk with her and get her to understand safety concerns. She had stairs in the wrong position. And I was like, if someone falls here and they hit their head on the corner of the stair here that you've got protruding, that makes no sense. We just need to push it back 1 foot. And then it fits in neatly with the design. And she's arguing with me against that because she was the landscape architect expert. I'm and then she wanted to dump all this money into stainless steel fencing, which the quotes alone were more than the cost for the park to be built. I'm like, what are you? And I was like, all these walls have to go. And so what? And then I talked to the council, hang on, look, remember the brief? And come here. And we walk, and can you see the park? No. Can you see the park? No. I was like, okay. She was gutted and got in there with the concrete wall's gone.
Did you?
Yeah. I was like, it was just such a waste of money because these people weren't consulting with the skaters, weren't going, okay, this is your park. What do you want it to look like around the outside? How can we work together? No, don't.
Listen, before we move on, what would you say, being involved in these processes, would you say is your biggest life lesson from it?
Don't think that you're not worthy. Back yourself. If you've gotten to a certain position with a thing that's happening, you're there for a reason. So back yourself because you're not there by mistake. It's not about you. It's about us. So include people, show people how to work together, mentor people in that way. Hey, we've got this opportunity. It's an us opportunity. How do we do this? A skate park is a compromise. There's no such thing as the perfect skate park. Everything I've done, everywhere I've been, everyone I've listened to, the perfect skate park is a flat slab. Otherwise, no one's going to agree. And even a flat slab, it's not flat enough. It's not wide enough. It's not long enough. Someone's going to complain as a skater. So you need to understand a skate park is a compromise. We're all compromising here. We're going to get something we want, but it's not going to be everything just you want. It's going to be bits of what we all want together. So how do we work together to do that? So
it kind of feels like you've also got to have the courage to be disliked at times.
You do, you know, like you definitely. I'm the person willing to take the shots. You know, like if someone's got to take the criticism to move it forward, and so I'm willing to do that. And you know, and it's funny because a lot of the projects, you know, like the first park I ever did, Curl Park, is because I was the only person that said yes. You know, and so many projects, I've heard others go, oh no, they want to do this. No, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have enough money. It should be like $20 million. It's like, well, they've got 80. That's all they've got. And we can actually do something for 80. It'll be small, but put in the time to make it significant. Like Currawong, like down just south of Nowra. Currawong. You know, I did a little park there, worked with the community for years, helped them get the funding.
All right, man. You had a piece in everything.
Tiny little design. It's only 200 square meters, but for only 200 square meters, it works. You've got mini ramp section, you've got flatback section, you've got a little handrail, you've got stuff that you can hit. And as a local, cut off, because, you know, that's way out there on the peninsula.
Yeah.
So you've got something.
Yeah.
And it's built really well and it's got flow in a small space.
Yeah.
80 grand.
Dude, insane. Like there's a new skate park down in Port Kembla. It was originally a DIY and then the local community petitioned for it to get a real skate park there right in the centre of a residential community. Lots of backlash from the local residents, obviously. And then in the end, Shane Serena's brand, a company built it. I think might have been designed by Convict, but built by Shane. But anyway, it was it's like a simple park, but everyone is just like it's the best park ever. All it's got is like a flat bank pyramid, a flat bank at one end. It's got a little spine through the middle, and then quarter pipes at the other end, fundamentally, and then 2 flat rails. Compared to what else is being built out there, but because it's simple, every single obstacle has been so well made and designed. Like that's all it really comes down to. I think we have overcomplicated in a lot of ways.
The basics of what people want in a skate park have not changed in 35 years. They just haven't.
What about but there is slappy curbs now.
Slappy curb. I put a slappy.
Way more slappy
I put a
curbs.
slappy curb in Nexus in 95.
You did Nexus as well.
Yeah, and Gosford in 94. I put a slappy curb. I had a little gut jump, like driveway height, like only half a foot. And I did a slappy curb on the side. I angled it. It's like, I think it was 80 degrees, so you could slappy the side of it. Yeah.
Sick.
But, you know, you got a ledge, you got a manual pad, you got a handrail, you got a flat bank, you got a hip, you got transition.
Maybe a hubber, you know, gap. What else? It's kind of like you take those basic units and then you mold them into, you know, different stuff. But it's just those basic units. The only thing that's changed in what's desired in a skate park in 35 years is the new park format. Yeah. The Olympic stuff where they're putting like all the different, you know, you've got mega ramp, but that's just such a unique beast on its own, you know, which is still just big transition, you know. Yeah. But the park stuff, the Olympic park stuff, that's, you know, they're putting things in different ways with rails and ledges and stuff. So you've got like big stuff though.
Big, but you've got like grind gap out stuff for, you know, floating rails and all that, which is fun, but I've seen that overdone so much. And
it's also very niche. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I know like that design has become the Olympic standard.
Yeah. Oh
but
my God, the
for the everyday skater, like, you know, you really have to pad up to skate those things. It's like kind of unachievable.
I just rode the Chilean National Park. And
that's what they
it's
call
the Olympic training ground, you know.
That's a TF.
And a BMXer designed it.
That's what, yeah, it's those dimensions,
you
right?
know?
Yeah.
And it's like I got this straight away and said, a biker designed this. And all the locals are like, yeah. So it's got these lines that don't work. They're too big for skaters. You know, there's a few skaters that can hit it. Pedro or Alex Argento or someone can figure out those lines, but most skaters can't figure out those lines because the gaps are too big and all
scary.
that. So they let a BMXer design this park and build it, and bikes aren't allowed to ride it. So it's got all all these bike dimension stuff. And it's like, but this,
and they're not allowed to ride it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Listen, and it's super interesting. I feel like we could talk all day about this, but can we move on? Can we talk about Bowlarama?
Yeah.
It was the premier event in
Uh,
Australia and worldwide in terms of bowl competitions.
Yeah, at one stage we were the only international competition series for a couple of years. We're the only events doing multiple countries.
Okay, I'm trying to think how to approach this because it's leveled. What made it successful originally?
When I was building the park, because I did my own events and people used to hire me to produce their skateboard events as well over the years. And people were approaching me while I was building Bondi, going, hey, we want to do an event there once the park opens, help us get it up and running. We want to do it. And everyone who was approaching me, I was like, oh, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. And I went back to Sam and Emil, I used to do skate events with, and the best mates, and we did clubs. We threw clubs together. We did skate events together. We just rolled mates. And it was like, hey, everyone wants me to do a skate event there, but I think we should do it. I think, we know what would work. Let's do it. So I spoke to council, and they wanted to do an opening day celebration. I said, well, can we make the opening day celebration our event? We'll produce that for free for you, and we'll do it all in one as our event. And oh my God, the shit we went through with council and community meetings to get that event up was just insane. The just inane idiocy that people would come up with, one old digger who was legend at council and was a councillor for years at a public forum told us we needed to do a traffic impact study on how the event was going to affect the traffic flow of the cross-city tunnel, the new cross-city tunnel, which wasn't even open yet.
What the?
I'm like, dude, it's in Bondi. Everyone's just going to walk there. The community want this event, and they're going to walk there. We're not getting 100,000 cars coming through the cross-city tunnel on the other side, on the harbour side, to then drive over to Bondi to see. So we had to deal with all that stuff, but the secret to the success of it was a guy by the name of Gerard Dorr. And Gerard used to manage the Beach Road Hotel. And he got me in Good Friday 97 to do a mini ramp comp in the courtyard of the pub.
Dude, was it an added trick comp?
Yeah.
Dude, I came second in that.
No
Do you
way.
remember that?
Yeah.
And you gave me a box of stuff. I'll never forget. I won some Killer Loop sunglasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember? Did you organise that?
Yeah.
I remember you gave me the prizes.
Yeah, that was so.
That was 97. I remember that.
And so then
I forgot about that.
so
and I
then-
beat everyone because I did an Ollie Blunt, and then Ollie Blunt screwed everyone over. Oh my God.
And Evo tried to claim he'd won because he stuffed up a trick. And
Evo, I remember,
He made it anyway. It was like, dude, that wasn't a real trick. Come on. Anyway, Jared started getting me every year. It's like, okay, we're going to do this every Good Friday from now on. And we did it for several years. And he said, and we got on really well.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm just going to back you. Anything you do, just let me know. I got you, even if it's not at the pub. So
No way.
97, Amber Ma and me did an art show, and Amber and I went to high school together. She's quite high up with documentary stuff at the ABC now. Her cousin was Julian State, and Julian and I grew up skating in Manly together.
Why do I know that name?
His nickname was Stinger.
What did he do
He was
again?
just rad. He was underrated, just
Okay.
crazy mini ramp stuff.
Yeah.
And so she's, I want to do an art show for my cousin, try and get him going because he's always been a rad artist. So, well, let's rope our friends into. So we did what was called Going Downhill Art. And we did it at her dad's gallery in Annandale. And Jared was like, no worries. I'll give you all the booze for free and food. Like, it's not even at the pub. It's just like, here you go. Just gave us all. Legend. And then he just like, for years, like, okay, anything, he just backed me. Okay, do this, do that. No worries. And when that came up, I said to him, hey, want to do this comp at Bondi? And he goes, okay, we'll do a party here. We'll do multiple parties and we'll give you every room in the hotel for the week free accommodation. And I was like, oh, we're not there yet, like the first year. So we did the party and he backed us. And then the next year we had people coming from overseas and like, well, okay, we've got free accommodation.
Yeah.
And so then everyone was like, oh, hang on, I've got a week's free accommodation at the raddest pub in Bondi. We've got a free party every night with free booze and food for it, and they're laying on food for us because we're at this comp. This is amazing, and I get to hang out on the beach in Bondi peak summer.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember, it was the week, I think it was the week after Globe World Cup in Melbourne, and then it was the week before Belco Bowl Jam. So it fit in.
Timing was,
it just all fit in. And Jared backing us with the accommodation and everything at the pub was key. And then Steve Van Doren had come to my mum's house for New Year's Eve one year with Tony Alva. We were out doing the Dogtown Z-Boys documentary press stuff, and AHA brought them over because we used to have, like, where I grew up, we had the best seats in the house for the fireworks. So everyone come to mum's. They were in town. AHA brings them over. They're hanging out. Steve Van Doren and I are talking. I'd already known TA for years. It's like, I really like you, like you've done a lot in skating. Pretty interesting guy. If you ever have a project come up that you think would suit us, get in touch with me directly.
Steve Van Doren from Vans said that.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And nothing had come up, and it had been, a few years, and we did the first year of Bondi, and I was like, I know what this is going to become. I can see it. I can feel it in my waters. But we're going to take baby steps each year and grow this incrementally. And I call Vans Australia, and I can't remember who was working there at the time. Like, what? No. And so then I call Steve Van Doren the next day. I'm like, hey, Steve, you told me if I ever had something, I've got this thing. I explained all to him. Everyone's already seen the photos of Bondi, this new park on the beach, starting to blow up. He's like, we're in. Call Vans Australia tomorrow. And before I could call them, they call me. Same person. Like, hey, here you doing this event in Bondi. Sounds great. We want in. I was like, okay. Pretend we didn't have the conversation 2 days. Like, okay, cool. Let's do it. And so we did it right. We took baby steps year by year, but it was Jared backing us with Beach Road Hotel. Nobody ever understood.
Beach Road Hotel, man.
Nobody ever understood the dynamic of that. And it was like, what we're doing is we're not promoting a competition. We're not promoting first place. We're promoting getting everyone together for a week to hang out, have the sessions, just enjoy themselves and go, hey, So we never paid appearance fees for someone. People, you need to fly me out. Like, no, I don't. Well, it's like, no. No other event in the world offers free accommodation.
Yeah.
Free party with booze every night of the week and one meal.
And you're in Bondi.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. And then as we started getting money for the prize purse, I was like, if these people are making the effort to come, and we want as many skaters as possible, but there's a limit because of daylight hours.
Mm-hmm.
So you want the blue collar skaters coming, and they're not going to be in the top 8, but you want them coming because they're really interesting.
Yeah.
And they bring it all together with all the heat. So they can't afford to come normally. So I was like, what can we do with the prize? I tell you what, let's spread it further down so more people get paid. Traditionally all the money's in the top 8.
So what did it go down to? Top 25? 5 or something?
In the end, I paid down to 24th in pro and 20th in masters, and 24th in pro got $1,000, and 20th in masters got $1,000, which was unheard of at that time. And this is probably one of the proudest things that I've done in skating, and I changed how the prize purse was distributed.
Yeah.
And there were no contracts and none of that exclusivity bullshit that happened with Street League, and which killed so much of what was happening in skating at the time. You know, shut down other events when they could have survived side by side. Anyway, so I did the prize money and it struck a chord, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing. So everyone started talking to the other pros. You need to do this, you know. This guy in Australia is doing this and it's amazing. And I was over in the US and I caught up with Steve Van Doren. I mean, we're years into the event by this stage, and I'm sitting with Steve and he goes, I want you to see this. And he slid a piece of paper across his desk and said, this is because of you. I want you to see this. This is how we're doing the prize money this year for the pool party.
At Vans.
At Vans. We're paying more people further down, and you've done this, you know. And I was so proud that I had that effect. It was like, okay, this is better for skateboarding, for skaters. This isn't like, okay, I'm pulling this much money out of this event, or I'm getting like this coverage, or it was like, no, all skaters are benefiting from this. Like, that's amazing. Like that was kind of like one of my proudest achievements.
Dude.
You know, it's like that. And it was because, you know, Sergi Ventura was definitely key in that. He was like talking, there was like, you know, trying to get all the riders together. Okay, we need to get better. You know, we need to get more rights. We need to get people thinking about us more and treating us better and all that. And so I was paying attention to that. And we were having rider meetings when other events weren't, and like having these really like hours long rider meetings and pulling apart how the comps were judged. And we ended up, you know, everyone was like Cab and McGill and Bob Burnquist and Rune Glifberg and all these guys in Kowalski, and they're all giving their opinion. This is what we think of how Bucky Lassie, Pedro, how comps should be judged like this from now on. We should get rid of the jam format because it's unfair, because, you know, we should get rid of like untimed runs and snaking because, you know, you got one guy who's a really good snake and no one else gets a run. You know, we should do time runs at 35 seconds in a bowl, not 45 or 30. Okay, cool. And it should be 4 runs, best run counts, because as soon as you go to 2 runs or 3 runs, then you're not getting the best skating. Everyone just does the one run and just keeps doing it.
Yeah.
So they stay on and hope that they get the best score for that run. Whereas if it's best run counts, then if they get one run in the bag, then they're going to try something else and something
Try
else.
and beat that score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And try and do something they haven't done in the previous run, so you get better skating. And we sat down, we put that all in a format. It's like, well, how do we judge it? So we broke it up into points. Well, if you do a run like this, you get this many points and this, and you can move up like that. And everyone, all the other events don't promote how much money they've got. They don't promote how much the breakdown is. They don't promote how it's judged. And we did. We put it in an email, sent it out to everyone in the industry, all the riders. Okay, this year, this is the prize money. This is the breakdown. This is how it's judged. This is, you know, so we were trying to create this just fair platform that everybody could be part of. Everybody could figure a way in. And then it got so popular that we didn't have space for everyone. So then we started Newcastle and we did ABC, Australian Bull Riding Championships. So that was a way for locals to qualify. And Waverley Council for years were like, you have to do a women's division. It's about equality. I was like, it's not there. We would love to. We can't get industry support, even from like huge women's action sports brands, the biggest women's action sports brands in the world. I won't give their names. They're
Wouldn't
like,
sponsor.
oh, we're not touching women's skating.
But in terms of touching it as in sponsorship,
Yeah.
You had the competitors ready to go though.
But there weren't any competitors. You know, you had Poppy just coming up. We might have got like 2 or 3 other girls from overseas. You can't have a competition with the same prize purse as the men where you're paying 1,000 out of 24th and you got 3 women. And at the time, like, one of those women couldn't drop in or do a grind. Like it doesn't work. So when we started Newcastle, like, okay, we're going to build the scene. So we started like the women's division really like nurtured that scene. And Lizzie Armanto came out one year.
I was going to ask you, tell that story.
So she wanted to skate in the women's division. Like, no, you can't. And, you know, everyone's like, whoa, that's gnarly. What do you mean she can't? Because she's American.
You did have a women's division established then?
Yeah, in Newcastle.
In Newcastle, okay.
Yeah, just in Newcastle because there just wasn't there weren't enough to do a women's division.
Gotcha.
And they weren't at that level yet. There weren't enough of them. They weren't at that level yet to, you know, pay $1,000 down to 24th when you've only got 3 women in the bowl. So I say to Lizzie, you can't skate. And everyone's thinking I'm being no. No. I went to ride in the opens. So no, I'm out here to ride with the women. I said, you're going to do much better for the women's division here if you judge them so they know they've got a woman looking out for them and you show them how good you are in the open. She's like, no. I was like, trust me on this. And my PR manager at the time, Ella Ryan, spoke to her and was like, no, trust Chad on this. So she goes in the open division. She's the first woman to ever qualify into a pro open final. Got 7th. Like amazing. Just, you know, you could hear the earth crack open in that moment. Hang on, a woman just got into a pro open final. Oh my God. And she earned it. She didn't get girl points. She earned it. She stayed on. She did the stuff. She did her frontside inverts. She was doing gnarly stuff. And she was like, hang on, could I qualify to go in Bondi? I'm like, yeah, you could. You're skating good enough. You could get one of the spots from Wellington the next week because we used to do Wellington as the international qualifier for Bondi if you weren't already ranked. So she comes over to Wellington, picks up the last spot in Wellington to qualify for Bondi. She's qualified legitimately to go in Bondi. Pissed off so many dudes. It's so funny because like how everyone's
pissed off because she outskated them.
Yeah, like you know, like this whole trans bullshit that everyone's carrying on with. Oh my God, you know they shouldn't be. It's like you're fucking kidding. Like this woman qualified of her own radness into this comp, arguably, you know, one of the biggest comps in the world at the time, and it pissed off the guys. And, you know, everyone's argument's the other way now with how they're trying to frame it, which is so stupid. It's just skateboarding. We're playing with a kid's toy, you know? Get over it.
At the end of the day, that's what it all is. Keep going. This is great.
And so she qualifies into Bondi and all these guys are like, oh, she shouldn't be in there. Like, these guys should be in there. Like, no, they bailed. She stayed on. She won. She skated better, so she's in. So she goes to Bondi, you know, Vans want to pick her up after that. And then, like, all this stuff happened, you know.
So she got offered a Vans sponsorship at Bondi.
Yeah, and then from there, I helped her. I connected her with people at Birdhouse and then connected her with her agent. And, you know, we all know where she is now.
So then do you think it led to her getting on Birdhouse?
Well, I was the one that made the call. So
to Tony Hawk?
No, not to Tony, to Kevin Starb. Kevin Starb's like one of my oldest, dearest, bestest friends, and he was team managing stuff at Birdhouse at the time. I'm like, hey, Lizzie Armanto would love to ride for you guys. And he goes, I'll speak to Tony. And he spoke to Tony. Tony's like, I just did commentary on her at a comp. She's rad. I'd love to have her on the team. Get her number, but don't tell her. So I got her number, gave it to Tony, and then Tony called her and surprised and hey,
wow.
you know, this is Tony Hawk.
That's a rad story.
It's it's nice. It's nice to have the platform where you can help.
So subsequently, after that year or those years, what happened with the women's event at Bondi and ABC? Did it grow? Do you feel like there was an exponential sort of growth?
The women's event in Newcastle grew and grew. It still wasn't at a point where we could put it into Bondi at that time. Then I got screwed.
Why? Because the standard wasn't high enough?
The standard was definitely high enough by that stage. There just weren't enough women. They just flat out weren't for the division. So that's why we just kept trying to build that scene every year in Newcastle. And you had Poppy and you had Saber Norris and
Saber Norris, yeah.
Saber Norris, who's one of the greatest female skaters ever. What she was doing on her board before she stopped skating was insane. No one was doing frontside 50-50 to fakies like her in the deep end of a concrete bowl. She was like fully stood up and then just like bring them in. And, you know, she was doing full switch runs and she was 10 and like just doing these 2-minute runs that were insane. And so the women started like really progressing really fast from that comp in Newcastle, but it wasn't big enough yet. Then I got screwed over by my partners and got taken out of Bowlarama. Lost my shares, lost the money the business owed me, like all this stuff.
Can we go there?
Yeah. My last year I did it was 2015 and we were going to lose money. And, you know, with a business, there's partners and you all have a certain amount of shares. So you're committed to put money into the business to keep it afloat. And I had us as part of this grant scheme with the federal government. So if we kept us afloat, which was February to June, in July, we would have got that money back from this grant scheme we were part of. My part, as we just got some new investors in, and they, instead of going, okay, let's do this, they were trying to hang it on me. I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you've been filling the books. And they got in a bookkeeper to go through the books to try and find like me ripping off $10 for a coffee or something. And so they could blame it on me. It's like, go for it. Here you go. Here's everything. They go through, couldn't get me on anything because I'd done nothing wrong. And they're like, oh, it's like what happened was we missed the window for sponsorship sales that year. Didn't bring enough sponsorship sales to cover everything up front. Thankfully, I had as part of this government grant scheme. So if we kept the business afloat for a few months, we would have got all the money back. But then I'd given up my controlling interest in the business. I had 51% of the shares. I got diluted to 40 when we got the new investors in. They voted in a block with my old partners, changed the voting rights, changed the share distribution rights, changed like all this stuff and just took it all from me. I lost everything. It was a nightmare because I
didn't like have to buy you out of it.
No, because they changed the share distribution. All of a sudden, like instead of us having 100 shares, they went to like 10,000 shares, which left me with one share while they had 9,900.
Almost like a corporate takeover.
Yeah. And they didn't know what they were doing, and which was obvious. You know, they did it for 2 more years, and what they did, you know, they were really big on wanting to charge for seating. I said that's just insane. You know, you've got 10,000 people coming onto the site, over 10,000 people coming onto the site, thinking maybe they might get a seat to watch the comp. If they don't, they hang out. We've got the big screen. They're watching the big screen. They're shopping at all the sponsor stalls. They're really enjoying it, taking in the day. If you cut it down and go, okay, we've only got 500 seats, then the people who've got the seat are going to come. The other 9,500 aren't going to come. So all of a sudden you've got 9,500 less people interacting with the sponsor stalls, which is the big thing for sponsors, having an activation on site at Bondi Beach. And on top of that, because it's really limited in how much seating you can put on that site, it ends up being cost neutral. Once the amount of money it costs to implement paid seating, you only make that amount of money back. You know, you're not making any profit on it. So then they tried to go, okay, well, we'll charge for the webcast to watch the webcast, which went over like a lead balloon. You know, and when they're like, oh, we're going to do the seating this way. And so they moved the seating because none of them, you know, I've got design experience. None of them had design experience. Like, we're going to put the seating here. It's like, you've just charged someone for seating and they can't see the bowl. Like, they're looking out over the bowl. They can't see down into the bowl.
So was this the beginning of the end, you reckon?
Yeah, that was like 2015 was my last year, and then they did it 2016, 2017. And I think they added women in like
and then COVID happened it didn't go 2018.
Yeah, 2020 was COVID.
So did it go 2018? I can't remember.
No, I think it was 2016, 2017. It was like two more years after me, and then just
Like at its peak, I'm going to ask this question. Like, what kind of budgets were you working with? I've got to know. Can you share?
Surprisingly less than people think. I think Bondi we ended up at like maybe $500,000 budget.
Wow.
And that's
to just have the thing run for a week.
Yeah. And we were dealing because the most people in the council never wanted it.
Yeah, why is that? Considering the revenue I assume that it brings to the whole area.
Because they were getting so much blowback from the community. The community was becoming wealthier. The rich people didn't want to be disturbed in their beautiful homes and apartments.
How was it disturbing them?
They didn't want dirty skaters and noise and all that stuff. So every time they put a hurdle in front of us, we jumped it, which pissed them off. And so they put another hurdle and we jumped that. And they kept coming up with this stuff. And one of my partners was just a fucking idiot. And he'd sit there and go, oh, no, we'll do that. And, we're sitting in these meetings and the police, Waverley police were going, they shouldn't have to do that. That's not their responsibility. The police are backing us. And my idiot pastor going, no, whatever you say. So it's costing us like another 10 grand, another 20 grand, another 35 grand. They end up making us like pay for user pays police to patrol the beach during the week.
Pay the police.
When the police are already patrolling the beach at that time.
But you had to have a budget for police.
Yeah. And then we're paying user pays police and it's like, okay, what do they do? Well, nothing. Like, but what do you mean? I've got to pay for like 10 of them. Oh, well, they just stand there. Like, so are they helping with security? Like, if security have an issue? No. Like, so what do they actually do?
So 10 of them, like, I'm talking, that's probably like, what, 10, 20 grand?
Yeah, at least. I think it probably got up to, nearly 50 grand or something for user pays police in the end. And so we're paying like all this money for things. And the police were like, they shouldn't have to do that, And they were like, you need to double moat the area because you can't have alcohol on site. It's got to be an alcohol-free zone. It's like all of Bondi Beach is an alcohol-free zone. So I've got to have an alcohol-free zone within an alcohol-free zone.
Do you have to pay for that?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
And so I had to deal with all that and like all this security briefing and policing. It's like, and I didn't like that because the first thing people experience when they get on site is we don't trust you. We just don't think you're a good person. Open up your pocket, open up your bag, let us go through everything before we decide you're good enough to enter.
Interesting.
And it's just, you just put everybody off, And I was like, no, like, can we get rid of the fence? And by that stage, we were doing Australian Open of surfing at Manly Beach.
Were you part of that as well?
Yeah.
Organisation?
Yeah, I was running the production of the skate
busy
stuff.
Were you?
Oh, it was insane. At that point, I had 4 events in 4 cities in 2 countries over 4 weeks. So by Sunday of Bondi, which was the last one, I was just done. Like my body would shut down. My whole body would just break down.
Was that your full-time job though? Was that sustaining you living income for a year?
Roughly? In the end it was. Like the last 3 years I had a living wage. But that was going towards paying off the debt I'd accrued in the first 8 years.
To keep it going.
Yeah, to keep it going.
Which you were putting your own money into.
We would try and get to break even every year. And 1 year we made some profit, I think 2008 maybe. Emil and I looked at each other like, oh my God, we made money this year. That's amazing. And then we got this partner on board who we thought was going to do all this stuff, and he just was useless. He didn't know what he was doing. He negotiated contracts in the wrong way, so we're basically giving money back to the sponsors to promote. We were paying our money to promote the sponsors, and it was a shit show. And so then we weren't making money. We went back to not making money for years, but we were like locked into these 3-year contracts with rollovers, so we had to keep going. Yeah, and it was just.
I mean, if you reflect on it now, like what would you have done differently, you reckon?
I wouldn't have got that partner on board. Okay. I would have backed ourselves harder. We'd finally we had it this year. We'd finally made money. We had locked in with really good brands who were backing us and wanted to grow with us organically every year. We're going in the right direction, and I feel it would have been more of the community. It would have been better. I just think we should have backed ourselves better rather than not trusting that we could do it ourselves or we were good enough.
Like you were in a point of like you felt like you needed extra assistance.
Yeah,
when you didn't really.
There's stuff.
Maybe.
Well, there's stuff. Sponsorship sales are just a nightmare. You've just got to deal with there's certain people you just like, oh my God, I've got to have a meeting with this person and listen to this stuff. And it's just so hard. You've got so many rejections. At one point,
that's interesting.
I'll name the brand, Vodafone. Vodafone at this time had a campaign. Their nationwide campaign was someone skating. It was in bus shelters. It was on billboards. They're ad on television. There was a guy high up at Vodafone who came to the comp every and he loved it. He goes, oh my God, this is the guy you need to speak to at Vodafone. Call him. Okay, so we call him up. He goes, what? Skateboarding? We don't have anything to do with skateboarding. We sponsor cricket. Like, why would we have anything to do with skateboarding? I'm like, your whole nationwide campaign right now is a skater.
I didn't even know.
That's it. Yeah, but they're like, no, mate, because they've got their box at the cricket where they go with all their VIP mates and they have their, boozy afternoon.
Like a junket.
And that's what they know. It's like, and it was just always dealing with that, just like knock back after knock back. And
so there wasn't a point where you were like fighting the sponsors off with a stick. Like I felt
never.
like you were in a position where like you would have been turning away sponsors, like because
it's funny. There was like I remember there was an energy drink brand launching in Australia, and they hadn't reached out to us. And I'm going into these meetings, and everyone's like, "Oh, congratulations!" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Heard that such and such has come on board as naming rights sponsor."
You don't want to name him?
Like, nah.
Okay.
And I'm like, "What?" And I thought they were taking the piss. I was like, "Nah." And then 4 different people said it to me over 2 days of meetings from completely different brands. I was like, "What the hell?" So I get this guy's number, track him down, and call him like, "Hey, this is Chad Ford from Bowlarama. I believe you're the naming rights sponsor of Bowlarama now.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk to me about that?" He's like, "Oh yeah, look, we want in." He used to be at another drink brand. He goes, they lost their way. They're all about motorsports. We don't want to be about motorsports. We know our audience. We want to be with skating and with music and blah. I was like,
Red Bull. Sorry. Monster. Come on, I can narrow it down.
And I was just like, oh, okay. Well, it sounds like you're doing, you want to be in the right place. I said, yeah, we want in, like, give us, and just help us start at the ground floor and then work our way up because we want in for the long haul. So I do this sweetheart deal from like just insane sweetheart deal. We were starting to do a television show at that time. So it's like, you're going to get naming rights on this TV show. You're going to get all this advertising. Our media impressions were huge, in the millions. You're going to get breakfast TV, all this stuff. And I'm going to do this rate, and like super cut rate deal, just to like get you on board the first year, help you, we'll grow with you. He knows that it's like a quarter of what we should be charging him in value. And he goes, "Oh, is that the best you can do?" It's like, click.
So you're dealing with hustlers, you're dealing with that sort of shit all the time. Like, this is where I'm kind of amazed at your resilience a little bit and like your tolerance for bullshit. And like I said, I've actually sat in council meetings and I've spoke to skate park designers a lot over the years, and everyone's like, "Oh, council," and so I just don't understand how you just dealt with it for so long.
I'm pretty stubborn, and if I see a good thing that's worth the fight and it's bringing benefit to people, I'm all in. And I could see what Bowlarama was. You know, it was so much work for Emil and I. It was just dragging us down. It was so many headaches. But we could see how many people had started depending on it, and we could see the benefit it was bringing to all these different people.
Yeah, I mean, you've already listed a few little things.
You know, so I was like, well, we're going to fight for it.
I was actually talking to Nikki Guerrero the other day.
Nikki's rad.
And Rune, but mainly Nikki. You know, and he just had nothing but amazing memories of Bowlarama. That's all he wanted to talk about. It's like, he just... I don't know, like it's a real legacy. Do you feel like it's part of your legacy?
Yeah, it's fun.
Or is it tainted? Is it tainted?
No, it's part of. I'm so proud of so much of what we did, and like there's so much we did. You know what I said with the prize money, things like that. It's like we did that. We affected positive change. Like, of course, I'm going to be proud of that. It was so. I'm such a fan of skating.
I noticed.
So it was like just being a little kid and just like getting, when I designed the square corner in the bowl for corner airs, I was thinking of Lance Mountain's corner airs.
Dude.
Lance comes out in 2008. I go up to Dave Pang. I'm like, Dave, the only shot I want you to get for me all day is Lance doing a corner air. And the next year he got it printed and got Lance to sign it. So I got a little shot of Lance doing the corner. And it's like, I designed this for him to do this and he's doing it right in front of me. This is amazing.
It's epic.
And it was those were the things that, like, as a skate, my 12-year-old skate nerd was just like, yeah, man, this is the best. This is the best. Not even thinking about the money, not even thinking about the stress of council and police and all that crap.
I kind of feel like I can still see this little skater nerd.
Yeah.
Like, is it still alive or has it been dimmed?
No, it totally is. It totally is. But I don't want to engage with certain parts of skating at the moment. So, like, I haven't watched anything from the last Olympics. I just couldn't think of anything more frustrating.
Not even ray gun?
Ray gun was the only thing I saw.
Just kidding. Keep going.
Props to
I
Ray
actually,
gun.
for the first time, just watched a thing. Anyway, side note, I hadn't watched it. Anyway, keep going.
She wasn't there by mistake, but she just chose a different path once she got there. Which if you hear her talk, it's like.
So you resonate with ray gun.
If you hear her talk and what happened, what she was trying to do, she knew she wasn't going to win. So she was like, I'm going to put something different out that completely goes against. So, maybe I've got a chance of stirring up something and getting a little higher. But, she took a punt, didn't work. But good on her for having a go.
Yeah.
And she wasn't there by mistake. They didn't just pick someone random off the street and go, here, you have a go at this. She's very good and well respected in that community in Australia. So, fair play to her. Anyway.
Sorry, I diverted you away from it. Keep going.
Yeah, but, we did stuff like Chris Miller came. Chris Miller's like one of my all-time favourite skaters. And I've known Chris for years. We get on really well. But I was just like, the whole time he was there, every time he dropped into the bowl, I was like, yeah, that's Chris, man. I've known Chris for years. He's taken me and my kid out and bought us brunch before. And, and I'm watching him skate. I'm just 12 years old. Oh, my God, Chris Miller's in the bowl. Chris Miller's in the bowl. And that was the last year I did. And that's what actually helped me get over what was done to me by the partners and when they took it away from me in the end. I was like, well, what else do I want to do with this event? What else do I need to do? I've done all these different things. I feel I've ticked all these different boxes. It was never about the money or the fame or the glory. It's about building this platform and sharing and doing all this stuff. I've had all my favorite skaters come here and ride this bowl that I designed and built. They've skated in my event. They've all done all this amazing stuff. Like, what more could I want? And the last skater that I hadn't had that I wanted was Chris Miller, and he's turned up. I'm like, I've ticked every box. I've done it. Like, cool.
Well, you've done something that's very unique.
Yeah.
That 99.9% of people will have never done.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's skating, isn't it? Not as much now, but definitely like when I was coming up in the 80s and the 90s, you could still go out and skate and do something that no one had ever done.
Yeah.
And that was really thrilling. Like, oh, hang on. I'm a little gronk from the other side of the world that is insignificant, but I can do something on my skateboard today, a new trick that's never been invented. And like invent tricks. And I was like trying to invent tricks and doing stuff. And it was like, cool, I've just done this thing that I don't think anyone else has ever done. And, you know, and skateboarding is that. And that's one of the attractions to it. It's like you can be so unique and just it's such a thing to lift you up, you know, especially if you come from different situations, you're not built up, you're not like told you're the best or you've got enough money to do this or that. You hop on your skateboard and you do this thing. It's like, hang on, no one else in the world has ever done this. Wow, that's pretty special.
Yeah.
Hang on, does that mean I'm special? Oh, cool. And then your mate does it. And you're like, oh, my God, you're special too.
Yeah.
You know? And
Do you still get like a feeling of like, you know, when you were younger and you learnt a new trick or you did a rad trick and you maybe got a good photo, who knows? Like, let's say then you like land a good Bowlarama organization.
Yeah.
And then it's a success. Like, is it a similar feeling? Because I know I'm getting it now in various things. It's like, okay, I just landed that parenting goal. You know? And it's like, and it really taps back into the first time I landed a kickflip.
Yeah.
And even like yesterday I landed a trick that I'd been working on, I haven't been able to do.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I saw.
But what I'm saying is it's just like, it really has translated a lot into my life. Like when I fail, I'm like, well, my approach is like skateboarding. It's like, no, I'll just keep trying. I need another way maybe I need to move my foot this way, pivot a little bit and land the trick and just keep trying the trick. That
kind of came through that's how I parented my son. You know, like I stood him on a skateboard the day he was born. And I did that because everyone always says, so how old were you when you started skating? And he's got a photo of him the day he was born. Go, well, the day I was born. You know, how many skaters can go, well, the day I was born. You know? So, and he was really into skating. And so we skated together and it was the thing that we had. And I could teach him life lessons through skateboarding, you know, and I could just like, get back up, you know. He'd fall and he'd like whack himself. He'd look at me to cry and like, do you need to go to hospital? No. I'm like, okay. Let's get on with it then. Let's keep skating. Okay. And he'd shake it off and wouldn't cry and just we'd keep skating. It's like, if you need to go to hospital, let the tears out. We'll go deal with this. But if you don't need to go to hospital, shake it off. Let's keep going. And when I was a new dad, I was freaked out. I had so many sleepless nights. Like, what have I done? How am I going to deal with this? How am I going to raise this kid? You know, I've always run my own race. I don't work for anybody. I don't have a regular 9 to 5. I don't have regular income. Like, what am I going to do? Do I have to change my approach? Do I have to do these things? And I thought about it really hard and long. And I think for who I am and what I can do, the best way I can show an example to my son is by just trying to do the best I can with what I'm doing. To show him that I'm working really hard. I might not succeed at some stuff. It might be hard some years with some stuff, but I'm trying really hard to do this thing. And I'm trying to do it in a way that has positive effect on those around me and lifts others up. So I stuck at it. When I was like, should I just like pack it in and get a job or, you know, I was like, no, I think hopefully I'm doing, you know, I still don't know if I'm doing the right thing. That's for him to determine. But it's like, I think this is the best way I can show him how to try and grow positively and do the things that matter most to you in life. And so I took that into Bowlarama. And so every year it's like, okay, what can we do better next year? How can we help everyone better next year? How can we lift everyone up who's coming to be part of this, or the experience for people coming to the event, you know, trying to work with our partners. And, you know, we used to undersell and over-deliver with what we do for our sponsors. You know, maybe not tell them everything they could do and then go, oh, here you go. You know, you can do more. Oh, wow, thanks. You know, way more than they expected for way less than they would pay elsewhere. And every year, people were like, how is it this year? Like, I was like, this was the best one yet. And it just kept every year was like, this is the best one. Yeah, even the last year, you know, we had one year where we lost a lot of money from rain. We got rained out on the Saturday, had to do it on the Sunday. So we had to double pay everybody for 2 days, and it was hard. It was a real struggle to get through that. That's how we got the new investors in, and the last year I was involved, when we didn't have enough money from the sponsors, the skating was still just, you know, everyone was like, oh my God, the skating this year is insane. And just kept getting better, and more kids coming in, and Chris Miller was there. And, you know, it was like everyone, we were trying to build this fair and welcoming platform and let people engage with it how they wanted. And hopefully they enjoyed it and it lifted them up. And it proved to be that, you know, people like, I want to come again next year. We had people like moved countries because of the event. You know, there were skaters that moved to Bondi because of the event. They wanted to ride Bondi all year, so they were good enough to do better in the comp the next year. Had skaters move to Wellington in New Zealand, relocate to there because they loved the community in Wellington and the event we did there.
And they would have never went there otherwise.
Yeah.
So then okay.
Yeah, like Cam Ward, one of my best mates. I've known Cam since I was little, grew up skating together, and he was one of our MCs and took him to Wellington every year to MC the event. Him and Jules ended up selling up, and they live in Wellington permanently now. You know, they loved Wellington so much. Louis Newman, his family discovered Wellington from Bowlzilla. They live there now. They love it. They're a part of that community. The communities embrace them. They love having them there. They're lovely people. You know, stuff like that. One day I was walking along Campbell Parade a couple of days before the comp, and this family came up to me, English family, like, "Oh, you're the Bowlarama guy." I'm like, yeah, you know, like, yeah, and just want to say thank you. We're from England. We live in England, but we come to Bowlarama every year. We were coming out from the UK for a trip one year, and our travel dates got delayed, so we ended up coming out 2 weeks later, and it timed with your event. So like, while we're in Bondi, we might as well check out this event. We're not skaters, but we went to the event. It was amazing. It blew us away. So we come out every year now just to go. To time our annual family trip just to go to this, and they weren't skaters. I'm like, what?
Dude.
You know, like completely random people there. So.
Going back to your son, like, do you feel that he is aware of your achievements? And if so, do you think it's had some kind of influence on him? When I say achievements, I think all the work all the skate parks you've designed and created and built, and you know, the events you've been part of and organised.
I mean, honestly, it's for him to talk to those things, but there are some funny things. You know, I brought him out from LA to the Gold Coast a couple of years to help me work on Bowlzilla on the Gold Coast. Yeah. And he just he hadn't been to a Bowlzilla event. He'd been to Bowlarama stuff, but when he was younger, but hadn't been to a Bowlzilla. And he's just like, oh, I don't know why you're still doing Bowlzilla. And it's like, it's because of community. You know, he comes out, he finally sees the community that had built up around that Gold Coast event. He was just blown away. And he was in the car with my friend Nikki and her kids, who he ended up becoming friends with. And he said to them, oh, I didn't realize, like, a whole bunch of people here, like, think my dad's kind of, like, cool and does some good stuff. and I remember Nikki telling me afterwards, she's like, we all just, like, our jaws dropped and looked at him and just pissed ourselves laughing. Like, what? You don't know what you done. You know, I think I'm just his dad, and that was just my work. So, you know, he skates, he rips. He's a really good skater. He's got his own approach. He's good style. He could do stuff with it if he wants to go that way. Start a new little clothing line. And he just, I can't remember where I was going with that, but he's finding his own path, and he just looks back on those times as like, well, that was dad and dad's work. You know, I'm just his dad. It's like Tony Hawk's kids look at Tony and like, well, it's just my dad.
Yeah.
You know? So he kind of looked at that, but
I don't really give a shit, eh?
Yeah, but there is some stuff where he's looked around and going, oh, actually looking back, now I get what you were doing there. Or
Yeah, maybe the penny will drop when they're adults and struggling. One thing I've learned that's been really powerful is like I do think it's really important for your kids, you said it as well, for your kids to see you try and sometimes fail. You know, that's why I like it when the kids come to the skate park with me and they see me falling off tricks.
Yeah.
But then they see me getting back up. Like, that's pretty powerful. But the other thing I want to talk about, and we don't have to, and it's been already a long episode. It's like over 3 hours, which I love the long ones. But do you want to touch on Bowlzilla? Like, why you got it started and how it got started, and maybe maybe why it ended.
Hopefully it hasn't ended.
Okay, so it's not finished.
It's not finished.
Okay.
I would like to do more of them. It's just the opportunities to do that aren't there at the moment. It just no one has enough support to make that happen. It started because everything went tits up with Bowlarama. People wanted to stay with me. I was negotiating some new locations. We just started in Spain. Spain wanted to stay with me. I was negotiating an event in Chile. They wanted to stay with me. Wellington wanted to stay with me. Was negotiating a new event on the Gold Coast. They wanted to stay with me. So I had all these people going, okay, we're ready to go. Let's go. Okay, I need to come up with a name. And so Bowlzilla, I had this short list of names and I was trying to figure out what name would work. And then a mate at the time was like, I think it should be Bowlzilla. I was like, actually, that's on my list. Because I never liked the name Bowlarama ever. I thought we could have had a better name, but that was in a pinch, that's what we had. Sam Crothers came up with that name. And so Bowlzilla, I was like, oh yeah, maybe, it's on my short list. And and I spoke to a few friends who I trust, like, what do you think? And gave them the short list of names, like, oh, Bowlzilla. And then no one had used Bowlzilla before, so I could own everything with Bowlzilla, which makes it easier for anything you want to do with marketing and rights and all that stuff. So when I started Bowlzilla, I was like, okay, what can I do a little different? Initially, the first event was Spain, took over Spain. Bowlzilla was the first one there. That had a lot of opportunity. And then the next one was Chile. I negotiated this really good contract in Chile, but I was licensing the name and the promoters there didn't pay anyone, ripped everyone off. And that hurt. I probably haven't got over that. I had a lot of mental health issues after that for years because when we lost money on Bondi the year before, I took my family savings out and paid cash to people. The cash prize money that people took home was my family savings. I paid suppliers cash to get them on site, and my partners didn't pay their share and didn't give me back their share of that. So I lost that. But that was my event. I owned it. So I stepped up. Here you go. I've done this. Chile wasn't me. It was a licensing deal. So that was just the worst. I felt so bad, really, really bad. And I tried for years to fight them in court in Chile, and it didn't work out. So a lot of people didn't get paid, and it really affected me quite badly in a bunch of different ways. But the Gold Coast was like a few weeks later. Wellington and Gold Coast were a few weeks later. And I was just like, and what changed with Wellington and Gold Coast, I was pissed that I lost Newcastle because they said they were going to stay with me and then they didn't at the last minute. And we were start a good thing with Newcastle. Like that, I think that's the formula. It's about lifting up the community now.
Like ABC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I turned Wellington into a nationals event rather than a pro event coming to town, because all the Kiwis were like, oh, bro, I don't have a big head. I'm not dropping in with them. Hey, no, they're the pros. I was like, no, they want to skate with you. Hop in the bowl. No, bro. I don't have tickets on myself. That's not me. It's like, drop in the bowl. No. So then I turned it into a nationals and I was like, okay, here's the kids, here's the women, here's the masters. Like, you're all welcome. Come on.
Yeah.
and tried to build up that scene. And then we did that with Gold Coast as well. And then it was like, this is it. This is what we're doing. From now on, this is like, we're lifting we're giving everybody else. They don't come and look at this, they participate. And that was the thing.
All right, we're back. Excuse me, I had to go to the bathroom. Over 3-hour episode, this one, so far. Let's go to 4.
Tell him to shut up.
I might release this in 2 or 3 parts, Chad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've had a wild life, dude. Like, it really is. Whether you realize it or not, whether you're humble about that or not, like, yeah. Anyway.
It's just, trying to be part of a thing and do your best to help out along the way, I suppose.
Just your journey. It's just a lot of this, just one quick observation is like, I feel like originally and a lot of the stuff that you've been involved in it's kind of like almost chose you a little bit, and it's just been your life direction, your right place, right time.
Yeah, it has, like skating stuff, I was right place, right time. When skating started blowing up, I'd already been there.
Yeah.
And they wanted a kid and I was the known kid for a thing. The nightclub stuff, Sean Finlay just grabbed me off the stairs and like, oh, okay. It was just, Simon, skate parks. Simon Heath bumped into him on the street. And he's like, oh, my God, you can help me with this skate park. First skate park I did. And, just led on to, lucky life, I guess.
Lucky life. But look, let's just finish up the Bowlarama, Bowlzilla stuff. Like, so in the end, it was a licensing issue. People didn't get paid. That had a huge toll on you personally, mentally. That
definitely had a huge toll on me personally and mentally. And I still haven't, I'm probably not ever going to get over that because it just felt bad because I felt like I was letting down so many people, but it was out of my control because it was a licensing deal. And I was trying to explain that to people. It's like, someone brings Metallica out to do a concert and then people don't get paid. It's not Metallica's fault because it was a promoter hiring them to perform for their show, even though it's the Metallica show.
Yeah. And this is what a lot of people don't understand, those details, right?
Yeah. And that was the first time I'd done something like that. Normally it was me running the show. Yeah. Like when I did New York, that was me. I flew over, made New York happen, met with the city, did all the deals. So rad. Got it happening in Spain. Flew over, met all the people, did all the deals. It was me in control. And so then Chile as the licensing deal, it's a terrible lesson to have to learn. I wish I'd never learnt it or inflicted that on others, but it was.
But I say this like this is the journey of successful people. It's the journey of entrepreneurs. It's the journey of people who are willing to put themselves out there in uncomfortable spaces. Is that they're going to have failures and they're going to have these things happen. Like I'd rather take those risks, try to make things happen than not.
How's this for a funny side note though? On Chile, I was just out there, and the bowl is still there that we built special for it. Anyway, this marine reserve has bought the land it's on, and we managed to talk the security guard into letting us go in and check out the bowl. It had water and a bunch of crap in it, but he let us go in and have a look around, and he goes, "Oh, in the next few months, they're turning this into a penguin and seal reserve. They're going to fill the bowl full of water and turn it into a penguin and seal."
No way.
Yeah, I'm like, no way. That's rad.
That's rad. Speaking of penguins, I got a listener question here from Peter the Penguin Franklin.
Yeah.
And he wants to know, have you ever had any backlash for doing the skatewing ad?
I was funny because I'm the only person that ever got backlash for skatewing, and it wasn't just me. There were 4 of us. It was Cam Ward, Danny Van, John Finlay, and me.
Amazing.
We were doing the stuff. But when they brought the skatewing down to Curl Park one day, first time, and they're in the car park, put 2 out in the car park, and everyone's like, what the hell are those things? And Cam Ward hopped on one, and Cam Ward was retired undefeated Australian flat ground BMX champion.
Right.
Amazing. Like Cam's dexterity on all these things is incredible. Like he's probably like 120th Dan karate now. So he hops on this skatewing and starts doing flat ground like he does on his BMX. And they're like, what the hell? You know? And I grab the other one and go and hop on the vert ramp. The thing's so heavy. And I'm just like faking up and doing kick turns. And they're like, oh, what? And so they go, oh, can you two maybe work with us? We'll pay you to work with us. We want to do stuff with this. And then we couldn't do it all the time. So we got Danny and Finn in as well. And it was the four of us, and we'd swap out doing all different things. And we did this press day once, and they hired a jump ramp from Skateboard World. No idea what they were doing. They're just like, we just need a jump ramp. Didn't know what it was. They just knew it was a skateboard ramp. Didn't know how it could be used. It was just sitting on the hill. And Cam's down doing his flat ground stuff. I'm looking up the hill of the jump ramp. I look at him and goes, you think you could? I'm like, fuck it, let's go. So I go up the hill, push down the hill and fly off the jump ramp on it.
Amazing.
And it hadn't even occurred to them, and they all look around at the moment I'm flying off the jump ramp and they're just like, bing, like, oh my God.
He's flying.
The wing skateboard flies. Oh, that's the shot. So that became the promo shot, is me flying off a jump ramp.
But for those of you that don't know what it is, like describe it to people. It was designed by the people who designed the World Cup boat things? No.
So this guy came up with it, and initially he put like a packing crate on top of a skateboard and bombed a hill, and his ankle got caught under it. He broke his ankle really bad. And then he lifted the wings up so your feet couldn't get caught under it. And he took it to this toy company. And they're like, oh, cool. Okay. Hang on. Wing keel.
Yeah.
So they licensed Ben Lexon's name.
Ben Lexon.
And said Ben Lexon designed it.
That's right.
And so then we started doing all this promo. Like, we were on Beyond 2000. I got to hang out with Ben Lexon a bit, like with promo.
No, were you on Beyond 2000?
Yeah.
No way.
And I was 16. I just dropped out of high school, had no money, and they were offering me money to do this. And I'm like,
What'd they pay him? Come on, give me numbers.
I can't even remember. It's like $200 here and there, but it was a lot to a 16-year-old who's fresh, just dropped out of high
90s.
school.
Yeah.
And no, this is 88.
Oh, 80s, dude, 200.
Yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, I'm living the life on a skatewing. And so we're doing all these promo. In the end, it didn't sell because they didn't listen to us. We were like, it's too heavy. Change this out, change this, make it a bit smaller. Like, no, we're already committed to production. It's hitting the stores. So they sold it into the stores. So they did their ass on it, and they didn't pay. Like Cam and I think we're still owed like 10 or 20 grand each from the 80s from this thing.
Still?
Yeah.
Dude,
so
let's get that.
Yeah. But I was the one that, everybody loves Finn. Everybody loves Danny. Everybody loves Cam. Yeah. But I'm the one that copped all the shit about it. Like it was just me, and I'm the one that sold out.
Why do you reckon that is, Chad? Like, why?
I don't know, because I was. They were older and more respected. I was younger. Everyone thought I was like cashing out, and I was like, dude, like what the hell? Like they were all getting paid the same, doing the same thing. And I guess because I became the poster boy, because I'd taken the thing off a jump ramp. So,
yeah, dude. I mean, that's groundbreaking shit.
Yeah, I know. The first one to get a skateboard to fly. So, yeah, I remember we did like the big launch of it. There was a huge affair. Like they invited all these celebrities like Kamal and all that.
Kamal.
And it was on the Don
Are you kidding me?
It was on the Don Lane show.
Don Lane.
And I'd blown out my knee. I can't remember how I blew out my knee at like a demo or something, and so I couldn't do the appearance. So Finn rode for me that night. I remember it's getting lit. I was 16, getting lit at the Harbourside Brasserie at Pier 1. Finn crashes on my couch afterwards, on my mum's couch, it was a funny experience. And I just started editing speed wheels and everyone's like trying to hang shit on me. So I'm like, you know what? And they were advertising in the mag, so they're pushing to get coverage. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to kill this thing once for all. I'm not going to like say it's bad. I'm not going to say it's good. I'm just going to give a fair and balanced article. So I did an article in speed wheels about it. I was like, oh, you know, it's not.
I mean, it's interesting.
It's not designed to take over skateboarding. It's not designed to fill.
Yeah, what were they trying to do? Like, was it for carving around corners downhill or something so it could really lay?
They just didn't
lay sideways,
which was rad, which was so much fun.
You could do that,
yeah.
And
like,
you hold the handle on the other side.
Yeah, you go down a spiral car park and lay it around the corner.
So you'd be standing on it.
Yeah, and grab the wings and like lay it around the corner and slam into each other, or you know, like you could lay the wing up against a curb and have the wing like rail sliding a curb as you go. But you know, Cam and I and Danny and Finn had a lot of fun just mucking around on it, but it was never supposed to replace a skateboard or be this thing. But the guys who got the license didn't really know what to do, but they just could generate a lot of media.
Yeah.
And the guy who designed it originally was just getting paid a licensing fee, and Ben Lexon was like, hey, man, you're paying to use my name, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was that. But I was... It's funny because it's like to this day, Cam and Finn and Danny never copped any shit. It was just me. But I had to buy one off eBay.
Why?
I was never given one.
Oh, what?
And thankfully at the time, like Mum's house was so small, I wouldn't have anywhere to put it. But I bought one off eBay, God, probably nearly 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And Wade, I'd been out with Wade Burkett. I was like, I've got to go pick up a skatewing down in Cronulla. You want to come? He's like, yeah, I do. So we get down there to pick this thing up. It's like it had been used once. It was brand new.
No shit.
And it had a scrape on the tail. And the guy we were buying it off was a grandfather. He goes, I bought this for my kid back in the day. And they didn't know what to do with it. So I hopped on and went arse over tit. And that's what that scrape is on that corner. But then it's the only time it's ever been ridden. It's been in the garage ever since. And he goes, I did all the research about it and blah, blah, blah. And he looks at me and goes, oh, my God, you're the guy. and Wade's laughing like, oh, yeah. And he goes, can you just ride it for me? I just want to see you ride. Just like you don't have to do anything. Just do it.
No way.
A lap for me.
How much did you get it for? 15? Like
it was like $220.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah. And I've just and I had this like, I've got a few like permanent eBay searches for stuff, and I just never deleted that. So it just pops up, or I get emails all the time whenever they come online.
Random ones.
And they used to sell for like $200 or $300 or $150 if they were in shitty condition. Anyway, just in the last 2 months, they're all listed for like $2.5, $3 grand.
Way. See, look at that. Yeah.
So I'm sitting on a fortune. I'm going to retire.
Hey, dude, there we go. This is another listener question. This is from, there's a bit of a double up here, but the first one is from Mark Harry Harris. Remember Harry?
Yeah.
He said, well, I'll ask this, I won't ask it in order. First question is this, tell us the gory details, of the Mad Racket Club years. Was that just your promo club years?
No, it's a party that my friends have been doing since 98. It's always really, really fun. It's an underground party. They always had the best DJs wanting to play from all around the world. Really good crew that knew what they were doing, really respectful. So it's held in really high regard. And there's a bunch of skate mates. Morgan Campbell and I used to go all the time when he lived in Sydney. You know, taken a bunch of mates there over the years. And it's always like, oh, this is the place. These guys are cool. Yeah.
Okay. Nice, man. Next question, and this one, Aha has asked the same question. Harry's asked it as well. Why do they call you the devil's Chadvocate? Well, and Aha asked the same thing, except he wants to know if the devil's Chadvocate is powered by forces of good or evil.
It depends on what time of the day.
Who is this guy?
Depends on what time of the day you get him, I guess.
The devil's Chadvocate.
Aha and Harry gave me that nickname. It's up to them to tell that story, probably not publicly. I don't know. I think we only get one shot at this life, so you might as well enjoy it. make the most of it.
Word.
I want to live until I die. And if you think that's the lyric at the end of a Stone Roses song, and it's like, if you think about it properly, it's like, yeah, we're all going to live until we die. It's like, no, I want to actually live a full life. And so, I'm always encouraging my friends to live their best life in the moment.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's rad.
And
So that's
sometimes that lasts all night to sunrise. Sometimes
that's when the devil. Okay, that's the devil's chadvocate.
Yeah, sometimes it's pushing yourself a little further on that ollie. Or
Are you chadvocating for like just have one last drink at 4 a.m. kind of guy?
4 a.m.'s no,
that's
like
early.
8 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Listen, there's another one from the legendary Adrian Jones, AJ.
Oh my God.
Shout out, AJ. I love you. He said, I know you love a good pool. What is the best pool you've had the good fortune to skate in the US and in Australia?
So, just to start, Adrian Jones should be in the International Skateboarding Hall of Fame.
Check.
He should have been in there years ago. They don't even recognise his name. It's cool that people like Caney and that are in Slam's Skateboarding Hall of Fame. But Adrian Jones should have been the first person in there the very first year. I don't understand how the Slam Skateboarding Hall of Fame forgets anybody before the 90s. Yeah. But I've skated many pools with Adrian over the years, and I've skated some good, some bad. We've had the fortune of riding some good ones. People aren't aware that there are actually some pretty good pools in Sydney. Before I moved back to LA, Nick Van Hove and I had probably found and drained and skated more empty pools than anybody else in Australia up to that point. And we'll find like one or two a year for several years.
Yeah.
We'd invite friends along. And then when I left, there was a rad BMXer from Five Dock, and he posted shots of this one pool I had in Chatswood. And I hit him up like, hey, man, I'm so stoked someone else has finally found that pool. He goes, yeah, no, you haven't. I was like, send me your email address because if you write that pool, why didn't you take the badge? And I was like, just send me your email address. So then I sent him like photos of all the pools and photos of me draining and cleaning that pool in Chatswood years early. And he's like, no way, this is amazing. Like, I keep telling people there's pools here. Like, this is why I'm doing it. It's like rad. I'm so stoked watching from afar what you're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, skaters would hit him up all the time and be like, oh, let me come skate your pool. And I'm like, no, dude, like find your own pools and invite me and then you can come and ride mine, It's a fair thing to do. And this other skater, Will Roach, started going with him and helping him finding pools. And now Will's taken it on. And Will's just like lapped me and Nick, like in
Just
a year he's found
them out.
Yeah, he's found
No
more
way.
pools in a year than Nick and I ever did in decades, and it's rad. It's so rad watching people do that.
Yeah.
So Adrian and I've skated some of the pools Will's got here, and one we rode a couple of years ago was one of the best I've ever skated in Australia. It's an American style pool. It's like 9 foot deep. It's huge, big trannies, amazing. Chatswood back in the day in 91, that was rad. Really good trannies.
Yeah.
There was one in Smithfield that was really good. They're good
many.
Australian ones. And then in the US, I've been to so many. If I'm so lucky that if I want to skate pools, I call Salba.
Oh,
I
dude.
skate pools with Salba. So he's taken me to just like the
Just
most.
the fact you've got that hookup, it's just like so surreal.
He's taken me to the most incredible pools. And so tying this back to Harry, who we just had a question from. Harry and I were over for a trade show, and Harry knew Tony Al from touring with AHA.
Yep.
And I said, hey, I'm going out to skate pools with TA. You're coming with me. And Harry,
As a
anyone who
street
knows Harry,
skater.
Harry's not a tranny skater. It's definitely not a pool skater. He's like, okay, like, yeah, cool. So I was like, TA, Chicken from Pocket Pistols, Richie Carusco, the 360 king, who used to hold the world record for 360s, Harry and me. We go to Clinton Keith Pool, which everyone knows from that cover with Al Parton with the pentagram on the backsmith. And then we go to this other pool, the convict pool in Riverside, that's in a halfway house.
Dude.
And it's a paisley shape, and it's got transition up to the tile, so it's got like half a foot of vert. It's got perfect bullnose coping that's made for skating. Like, and this pool is insane.
Okay.
And it's like, oh my God, this is like, it's, you know, everyone,
Sick.
You've seen stuff of everybody doing stuff there, like Chris Miller, Lance Mountain, Omar, all these people. And not to talk too long, but I got the death box first, and Tony Alvis is like, oh, he was all pissed at me, like, you got it before me. So he goes in next run and grinds over the death box, and he hits it so hard, he gets sparks off his truck.
Dude, this is such a TA move.
This is like I'm witnessing a god. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I don't care. I never got the death box compared to what you did. That's amazing to witness that.
Dude, amazing. Listen, it's been a long episode, and I say this all the time, like trying to like encompass someone's whole life in 1, 2, 3, 4 hours is always hard. But I think we've had a pretty good snapshot into like who you are in your life. In my opinion, I love it. But there's a couple of quick rapid fire questions. This one's a really important one. And I do remember Renton Miller emceeing at a skate comp once, and he said someone was skating and they were ripping, and he said, this guy's more consistent than Chad Ford's barber. And Damo Kennedy has sent through a question, and he said, how many barbers has your hair cut outlived? Do you get a lot of? I got my flat top cut by Tony Rizzo on Oxford Street when I was 14. And up until that point, I didn't really have much confidence in myself and anything. And I looked at myself and I was like, oh, pretty cool.
That's
sharp.
cool. Yeah, like sharp. And so I just stayed in his chair forever. And he retired years and years ago. And whenever I was back in the country, I'd go around, like I knew all the family. And he'd cut my hair in the laundry out the back, and I'd sit down with him and his wife and catch up, and and then if he'd be away for a while, I'd go to his daughter Patricia's house, and she'd cut it for me because she trained under her dad. And,
so it's like a full legacy cut. Like this is amazing, dude. I thought it was just going to be this is like a beautiful story. Tony's one of my heroes. He came out to Australia in like 57 or 58, Italian immigrant, didn't speak English. Amazing.
Built up this whole property, just worked hard, saved his money, built up this whole property portfolio for his family around the eastern suburbs from cutting hair. He's in his 80s, climbing the ladder, doing all the maintenance work on all his properties. His youngest kid ended up representing Australia for the Socceroos. Like, amazing guy. Amazing.
So that's the raddest story, dude. See, there's like, you scratch the surface, then you really know the story behind the flat top, and it's a beautiful story. It really is, dude. Listen, man, I think that's about it. I've got Aaron Brown sent one through too.
Love Brownie.
Yeah, dude. And like I did an episode with Brownie and reconnected. Actually, my friend Jim Turvey found Brownie randomly. Like he disappeared, and then he was working in a bookshop, and Aaron Brown just walked in trying to sell a photo book that he'd made about the Newcastle ocean baths. Yeah. And my friend's like, are you Aaron Brown? And he's like, yeah. He's like, the skate photographer? He's like, yeah. And then since then, like, we've gone and shot photos with him. Jim did a feature on him in Slam, and it's been so great. He's back behind the lens too, taking skate photos.
I heard, I heard he just took some amazing shot at Belco that I haven't seen yet.
Has he? I want to see. Of Darren? Of Dags?
I'm not sure.
It is.
Aha's just told me, and I was just like, Brownie shot my interview that I did for ASM back in 2002, and I think I was the straw that broke the camel's back. He quit shooting photos after that, so I don't know what that says about me.
Why?
I think it was just a point in his life. He just needed a break.
When he talks about that in his episode, I mean, it's funny when I listen to his story. I really wish I picked up a camera in the 90s because there was just such a market. We needed more photographers, and it was really just like him, O'Mealy, in the Sydney scene anyway, him, O'Mealy, Curtis Marr. Then then there's others later on, but there's a period of time then where like they were the only ones submitting photos and stuff. That's what he said anyway.
I just want to take this quick moment while I can to thank Aaron Brown for being an incredible person. He ended up becoming quite close with one of my cousins, and they hadn't spoken for a few years anyway. She passed away just under 18 months ago. Yeah. And I reconnected them. And Kimmy was just like, I'm going to live forever, I'm fine. And it's like we all knew she was not going to last that much longer. And Aaron just stepped up and was just there for her.
Dude.
And just like drove around. She was like, I need a new dryer. And it's like, and we knew she didn't have long, but she was, I'm going to live forever, I need a new dryer. So he took her to Bunnings to buy a new dryer. And he just like, I love Aaron. And,
dude, shout out Aaron. I love Aaron too, man. And yeah. So shout out to him. That's really nice. And on that note, I guess, like, is there anyone else you want to shout out or anything you'd like to sort of finish on?
Yeah, there's so many people in skating. There's so many stories like that in skating about people who've been there through thick and thin for people and lifted people up. Steve Gourlay, great person. They should make a medal and give to him for how rad of a person he was and how much he influenced skaters in Australia. Yeah. There's so much history that predates like the written word in skateboarding and that's been lost. Even though there were zines and magazines like Perfect Transition, then Skateboard Australia out of Newcastle, and then Skate and Life and Slam and Speedwells and 540, and you've got those things, and then you've got demos and comps that started happening and when skating started to build again in the mid-'80s that weren't covered because the magazines weren't there yet, that are just lost to time. There's so many things that need to be documented at some point. So, thanking everybody who was around then, and if you're not part of skating now, that's okay. Thanks for doing what you did when you were there. If you're still here, thanks for staying the course and inspiring us all.
Dude, it's good, man. It's good. Thank you, man. Chad Ford, everybody.